They always get this wrong in film and television. So here we are. Let's try it out. First thing to remember is that the white square always goes at the bottom right-hand corner. That's very important. This is what television always gets wrong. The corner squares are occupied by rooks. Heading inwards, we have the knights. These always go next to the rooks. Then it's the bishops. And this is the tricky part, the king and the queen. The queen always goes on the same color as the piece. We say that the queen's dress matches her shoes. So the white queen will go on the white square, and the black queen similarly to the black square. And therefore, the king goes next to it. The pawns are the foot soldiers. They always go ahead of their pieces. There are 8 of them. They go on these 8 squares. And that's how you set up the board.
That's how you set up the board. It's very easy to get that wrong, the black square.
That's right.
Yeah.
Everyone knows now.
Everyone knows now.
Yeah, everyone had no excuse. I mean, you always see it. David's right. You always see it in films. They get it wrong. And it's like, guys.
It's a 50-50 chance, but 99% of the time it's wrong. So hopefully they know now.
Now we know. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the second round of the Airthings Masters is starting in just a few minutes, and let's take a look at who will face who in round 2. One of the games will be between Maxim Vachier-Lagrave and Ikaru Nakamura, who won that first game. He must be feeling so confident now, Jovanka.
Yeah, this is a great start for him. Everyone wants to start their first game off with a victory, and it just sets the mood. You know, you're feeling happy, you've won your first game, because if you're ever going to get nervous, it's going to be the first round. And, you know, if you lose that round, then that game, then you're thinking, ooh, this could be a bad tournament. But starting off with a victory, always good.
Great start for Hikaru. Now, second match, so interesting. All Russian matchup between Yana Pomnyachi and Alexander Grisham. Who's the favorite here, David?
Ooh, this one, it's so hard to call. I mean, Grisham, he's one of my favorite players. We mentioned earlier, the 3-time Blitz world champion. At these fast time controls, he's so dangerous. He can beat anyone on his day. That being said, he lost in the first round with White, his debut in the Champions Chess Tour. I think maybe he'll just try and survive this game. He needs to make sure he doesn't start with 2 losses in a row. The nerves will be jangling a bit. I think Nepomniachtchi, slight favorite. Russian champion as well, recently. Last week. So Nepomniachtchi favorite, but I'm cheering for Grisham.
All right. Well, next one, Levon Aronian, who just played a draw against the world champion Magnus Carlsen. He's going to play the fantastic Anish Giri. Who's the favorite, Jovanka?
Oh, I don't know, actually. It's a difficult one to call, but actually I'm going to say Levon Aronian, because he was very lucky in his first game, and he will be feeling very relieved. And again, that has to be almost like a victory, because he got away with it. So I think he'd be buzzing, and I think Levon is the slight favorite.
Levon, slight favorite there. All right, next matchup. Timor Rojabov from Azerbaijan. He's going to face David Anton, the wild card from Spain. And then the next game between Hare Krishna, and he's going to play the Russian Danil Dubov. But the game that we will focus on in this next round, it is so interesting. It is the game between the 2 finalists in the first tournament in the Champions Chess Tour. Wesley So, the winner of the Skilling Open, facing the second place in the Skilling Open, Magnus Carlsen. And David, is this the moment that Magnus has been waiting for now for weeks, just to get that revenge for Wesley So?
That's right. I think 3.5 weeks ago was that final, and I'm sure Magnus, again, knowing him, knowing his desire to win, he'll have been sitting in his hotel just focusing. He's knowing he needs revenge on Wesley So. Wesley So, meanwhile, has nothing to lose. I think he's won that first tournament. He might try and take this easy, go for a draw, but yeah, he'll be looking to frustrate Magnus even more.
What's your expectations, Jovanka?
Yeah, I agree with David. I think Magnus will go out all guns blazing, because he wants that moral victory as well. But definitely Wesley is very pragmatic. He is so difficult to beat. I think he is perhaps going to take it solid and leave his energy for the knockout stages.
And Wesley also maybe one of very few players that is able to sort of block out that he's facing the world champion. He just plays chess like he's playing anyone.
That's right. I mean, in that final, for example, he lost a couple of games, but he'd always bounce back every time by winning, and that's because he's able to block that off. And if he's confident, that's the main thing with Wesley, confidence. If he's confident, he can definitely win this game.
And Wesley So, the winner of the first tournament in the Champions Chess Tour, he has white pieces, and he is making his move, and Magnus just responded.
That's right. So we see that the openings actually started in the same way as we saw Magnus Carlsen's last game. White started by pushing his pawn forward in front of his queen, and we see Magnus Carlsen has developed a knight early in the game. White also bringing a knight out into the board, towards the centre of the board. the opening is all about that center. And actually, we've seen Magnus Carlsen do something that I've nearly never seen him play before. A very rare opening. We call this the King's Indian defense. And this one, we call it a defense, but actually it's played when black wants to win, when you want a really tense game. Not many trades will happen. White, we see that, is occupying the center with all of his pawns. White's 3 pawns there in the center of the board. That means that white normally has control. White will have more space a bit later on. Black is just aiming to keep the tension, make the opponent nervous a bit later on. Very, very interesting stuff. We also see that black has castled his king. Black's brought his king to safety and now finally counters in the center of the board.
We talked about that a lot in the last game. Pawns supporting pawns. You wanted the pawns to come on and support the pawns. Magnus just, okay, well, now he's traded one off.
Wow. Yeah, he has chosen a line that perhaps he is not so used to playing, because I've actually seen Wesley be very cutthroat in this opening and go for the kill. But here he has, like you said, traded pawns, and now we see a trade of queens. And now this bishop has been developed to pin that knight to the rook.
That's white. That's right. That's also white. If we bring up, I can't talk today. There's something wrong with me. If we bring up the board, we can see the last few moves. There have been a few trades, and we will likely see more trades. So in this position, a very tense position, there's plenty of moves. White has many, many options. White could castle the king, develop his bishop. Instead, he decided to go for a safe option. This shows to me that Wesley So is in the mood for a draw. He tries to trade the queens. Those queens leave the board, and now he jumps his bishop out. As Jovanka mentioned, this bishop does a great job. Kind of X-ray vision again. White, the black knight cannot move because this rook behind it would be attacked. Therefore, black decided, okay, it's time to shuffle this rook across, get out of that line of vision. And now a set of knights have been traded. White's central pawn here is very, very strong. Therefore, Magnus Carlsen trying to get rid of that pawn, and Wesley So jumping with his bishop forward. White's bishops look fantastic right now. Bit of, well, supreme control, really, by those bishops over some key squares. And Magnus Carlsen, it will depend on whether he's familiar with this position. This position has a reputation of being quite solid for black, being quite decent for black, but with best play, it should be a draw. So I think Wesley, he's just testing Magnus. He's keeping that draw in hand. He's keeping that safety latch on. He's just saying to Magnus, if you don't know your stuff, I'll punish you. If you do know your stuff, we'll just make a draw.
Exactly. No, I like this philosophy, actually, because like you said, Magnus rarely plays this opening. I don't think I've seen him it must be a handful of times that he's played something like this. And this isn't the most popular.
We saw a yawn on Wesley So's face there. We have to remember it's only 8 or 9 o'clock where he is sitting, a.m.
Yes, it is early in the morning. And yeah, but, I think we saw that Wesley actually did very well playing in the morning. So perhaps he's a morning person. And Magnus, of course, not playing in an unknown location. So
yeah, I actually talked to Wesley about coffee, because he told me he loves coffee, but he never drinks coffee when he's playing a chess tournament because he feels he gets too much energy from it. He gets anxious. So we know for sure that Wesley hasn't drinking coffee today, even if it's early in the morning for him.
Maybe that explains his kind of very calm demeanour, calm style on the board as well. And yeah, we do see a very calm position right now. Queens have left. White's pieces nicely centralised. White did retreat his knight there. He's aiming for a slightly more active square a bit later on. Normally, the only reason these top guys, these top players, they ever retreat is if the piece is on the way to a better square. So, yeah, I kind of like what Wesley's doing, but I think Magnus, he will be frustrated. He'll be so disappointed that he hasn't got a really kind of dynamic, kind of double-edged fight that he was aiming for when he played this opening that isn't normally part of his repertoire.
Yeah, I mean, you can actually just look at his expression. he's so expressive, isn't he? Just, he's not happy. This wasn't really part of the deal that he wanted. He wanted a kind of cutthroat game. He's not getting that. So, yes, now he just has to first of all, equalise and then play for what happens.
That's right. And with his last move, we see on the board there, Magnus Carlsen, he's just brought his bishop forward, challenging White's light-squared bishop. Those bishops are likely to leave the board over the next 2 or 3 moves. The pieces are slowly starting to disappear. I slightly prefer White's position just because the black bishop, the black dark-squared bishop next to the black king, that bishop's actually blocked by its own pawn at the moment. So that piece is not going to be very active, at least for the foreseeable future. But if the rooks leave the board, if everything else gets traded off, just the fact that the pawn structure is almost symmetrical it's going to be very hard for either side to win. Neither side will be able to create a passed pawn and get pawn to the end of the board. That's one of the only ways to win, actually, once the queens leave, once checkmate is unlikely. And there we see the bishops are traded off. I think this one is edging slightly closer to the draw.
Already.
Yeah,
there's still a lot of life.
There's definitely still a lot of life, but definitely there's a kind of, if you can see, there's no kind of pawn majorities on either side of the board, so it's going to be tricky to kind of create a passed pawn. It all depends now on who can mobilize their pieces in the best way, and both sides actually have very active pieces.
And we are getting some photos on Instagram. Wow, I like that last photo of that kid playing chess. Fantastic.
Yes.
I hope this board, I mean, I hope it was someone's Christmas present. That
That looked impressive, didn't it?
All right, we do see some moves, and I'm noticing that Wesley hasn't castled yet.
That's right. So Wesley has kept his king in the middle of the board. Sometimes, especially once the queens have left, as we saw in that last game with Aronian, sometimes the king's actually better in the middle. If it won't be in danger, if a checkmate won't happen, then kings can be great when they're centralised. So Magnus Carlsen, with this last move, offering a trade of rooks. We've seen the queens leave the board. We've seen a pair of bishops, a pair of knights. We will see a pair of rooks leave the board soon. I expect Wesley actually not to castle his king. I expect Wesley to just shuffle his king forward one square, connecting the white rooks. White's rook on the bottom right-hand corner there. It's not doing anything. He needs to get that in the game.
Yeah, and in fact, this position, it's been seen before, played about 10 times.
Really?
Yes.
Even after 18 moves?
Even after 18 moves,
Oh,
it
wow.
has been. But, OK, now we are in new territory. No one has ever shuffled their king forward. This is new.
Yeah, I think it might be new, but it's not a kind of groundbreaking discovery. And I think, actually, the fact that this position's been seen before, it's reflected in the clock times. Both players, they've played so quickly. They've both still got 14 minutes on the clock. Quite possibly they've studied this exact position before, or at least something very similar. And yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of Wesley So. He won the Skilling Open. He's a fantastic player, but sometimes I just think with White, a bit more ambition might elevate him to that very top level to compete with Magnus Carlsen for World Championship titles. This game, it does look like it's about to fizzle out.
There's simply nothing anyone can do to sort of...
It's just very balanced. Both players have the same kind of formation of pieces. The pawn structure is symmetrical.
Yeah, and we're going to see a trade of rooks, and now Wesley has advanced one of his queenside, his left pawns on the left side of the board forward, and yeah.
Yeah, now that black bishop, I mentioned that bishop was blocked in. That was the only bad thing about black's position. And now Magnus Carlsen, he's sorted out that problem. Black's piece, the bishop retreats, but that bishop has a very nice long diagonal to just to have some fun on. I think that black bishop will try and jump forward at some point. Wesley, meanwhile, needs to improve that white rook in the bottom right corner. It's just doing nothing right now. It needs to enter the game somehow.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things about this is that the players cannot offer a draw. They have to, yes, they have to play 30 moves, and then if they're going to agree a draw, it's going to be done by repeating the position 3 times. So this is actually really nice, because normally the players could go draw and they'll go yep, and then they would carry on to the next game. But this way, you know, they have to play it out, and sometimes people make mistakes.
True.
And
or mouse slips.
Yes. Or trigger happy hand moves.
Yeah.
At least Magnus, he's traded off the queens already, so we won't see a repeat of the last event where he mouse slipped a whole queen. This time, if he mouse slips, it won't be as bad.
Yeah, he actually got off to a great start in this tournament compared to the last one, where he lost the first game with a mouse slip. That was a horrible start for him. He did come back strong. A bit of a different start for the world champion today. He started with a draw and might also do a draw in the second round here.
That's right. And actually, traditionally, he's quite a slow starter. We saw last event, but it's just a trend throughout his whole career. He often loses one of his first couple of games, but then maybe that just gives him the motivation to fight harder in the rest. And I think a draw against Levon Aronian, against Wesley So, 2 of his strongest rivals, I think they will. He'll be relatively happy. He won't be too disappointed. Obviously, killer mode, he wants to activate it, but saving it for the knockout stages is equally viable. Meanwhile, Wesley So just retreats his bishop. White's bishop, knight and king there, nicely coordinated, all defending each other. I do expect Magnus Carlsen to maybe move his knight, maybe jump forward with his bishop. Lots and lots of choice for Magnus here. He could also just start to bring the black king closer towards the center. Black's king doesn't need to be tucked away in the corner there. It's safe, but it would be even better in the middle of the board, controlling lots of squares.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you that king would be better in the center. And it's just again, I mean, it's very difficult to actually come up with a plan here because it's much more straightforward when there's like a pawn majority on one side and you're like, push, I want to make a queen. And here it's all about just improving the pieces. And there you see Magnus has now placed his bishop on a much more active square. And Wesley is now up to Wesley to find the move.
That's right. And maybe if we bring up the analysis board, we can see what both players will be thinking about right now. We've mentioned the pawn structure is roughly symmetrical. Wow, Wesley So, I chose a good moment to bring the board up. Wesley So, he's kind of gambited a pawn. He's pushed this pawn forward. It's not defended. He's attacking the black bishop. He's asking that bishop a question. Do you want to capture this knight? Do you want to capture this pawn? Do you want to run away and retreat? Knowing Magnus, he definitely doesn't want to retreat. But if he trades for this knight, I think actually maybe White's bishop is slightly stronger than the knight. Bishops are better when there's pawns on both sides of the board because they're long-range pieces. The bishop can control the right, control the left. The black knight, it's a very short-range piece. It can only it takes a long time. It takes 3-4 moves to jump over to the other side. So I think this wouldn't favour Magnus Carlsen. But if he gets greedy, if he grabs a pawn, then we see the idea behind Wesley So's move. This rook, which was doing nothing the whole game, can now swing across, attacking this bishop. And suddenly, again, I keep using this phrase, but X-ray, once this bishop moves, White's rook will capture a pawn on the left side here, and White's rook would suddenly go from the worst piece on the board to the best piece. So I think this is something that Wesley is hoping for and that Magnus should avoid.
So we're going to be interested to see what Magnus chooses for his next move here. Probably shouldn't move his black bishop then to trade off or to take that pawn.
That's right. I definitely wouldn't capture the pawn as black right now. Trading the bishop for the knight, I don't think it's a huge mistake. It should still be fine. But it's just not something that he maybe wanted, Magnus Carlsen, with his last move. I just think that's incredibly clever by Wesley So. I just didn't expect that. And I think that's why he's such a dangerous player, especially at these speed events. He sees things that others would take a much longer time to see.
Yeah, no, so he's a very, very natural player, you know, and he's practically unbeatable when he wants to be. And I really love this last move because it's just asking Magnus, what are you going to do? Are you going to step back with the bishop? Are you going to take the very committal decision of taking that knight, or just kind of go, well, my last move was a mistake. I'm not too proud to retreat the bishop. And yeah, definitely for a proud person such as Magnus, I don't think he's going to find it too comfortable to kind of retreat the bishop. But it might be the best move.
That's right. And sometimes in chess, pride can be a bit of a sin. Sometimes you just got to think, OK, I might have made a mistake, but now I just got to correct that mistake, take a time out. And I mean, I think retreating here, it's not so natural. It just looks like it's lost a move for black. So maybe we'll see a bishop for knight trade. But Magnus Carlsen, this is where he will spend a bit of time. And Wesley, I mean, this is a tip for everyone at home as well. In rapid chess, just ask your opponent questions, set them small traps, kind of give them a choice of 3 or 4 moves which look roughly equal, make them spend that time doubting themselves. And that's why Wesley is so good at rapid chess.
Yeah. I kind of have an expression sometimes, you know, you got to give your opponent the ability to show their strength. And I mean that in a really negative way. So, yes, and, you know, like bishop taking the pawn would be a mistake. But, you know, it would be tempting to someone who's greedy and goes, yeah, I think I can get away with it. You might do it. You never know what people think up.
Yeah, I love that when you guys let us know that the pieces are talking together or to themselves or to other pieces.
I think Wesley, he was definitely talking to that rook that white rook in the bottom corner there.
Yeah.
He was saying, how can I improve you? And that's why he saw this idea. Otherwise, I mean, it's just so hard to give up a pawn in a roughly kind of balanced position with queens off the board. It's so rare to kind of even see that idea.
And he definitely put Magnus in a long thinking break there with that move. So a good move by Wesley there. Is it any possibility that with that move, maybe the game will.
Oh, well,
That one move he shouldn't do.
That's right.
That was something we were not a big fan of, because suddenly, and you can see Wesley's rook has activated itself, and you can see the bar was slightly shot up, but let's not get too dramatic.
Yeah, I mean, it's not kind of a game-losing blunder. It's not going to end the game immediately, but suddenly we see also the bar agrees. White is the one with the advantage now. It went from a completely level position to suddenly White having this beautiful rook in the black camp. That White rook now attacking a pawn as well. If you just compare that rook to how it looked 3 moves ago, so sad and lonely in that corner.
Magnus spent so much time thinking about that move, and he made that one move that you said instantly. So Magnus shouldn't now take this pawn, and he did. Is he a little bit rusty in the start here, Magnus Carlsen?
I was about to say he is rusty, but Wesley So's last move was not a good one. OK, it's fine, but it just means he's going for the draw. He's just eliminated the knights.
Yeah, OK, and I think we're probably going to see a repetition of moves. The rook is going to carry on checking the king, and yep, that's it. So he had a chance just to put the pressure on Magnus, and he decided not to go for it.
That's right. I think a huge missed opportunity to just show Magnus who's boss. I mean, Wesley So, he could have just used that very active rook he had to slowly massage him, apply the pressure to show Magnus, OK, you have to defend, I'm in control. But Wesley just went straight for the draw. Maybe he just wants to save energy. It is 9 a.m. where he is.
That's right. And these two players now have a long break before the next round, starting on top of the hour in 45 minutes or so. Magnus is sitting there. He's been looking very much to the right in this game. I'm wondering what he's looking at. Maybe a beautiful view, but he does want to look over this position. The game ended in a draw after only 33 moves, but they played that very fast, actually.
They definitely did play very fast. And yes, wasn't quite. It was one moment where it got very exciting, especially when Wesley asked Magnus to take a decision, and Magnus took a slightly inaccurate one. So that was very, very interesting. But then, unfortunately, the game just completely fizzled out into a draw, and nothing could be done.
All right. Well, that was the first game that we followed in round 2 of the Airthings Masters, and obviously all the other games are still going on, and we will now follow the game between Levon Aronian, who played a draw against Magnus Carlsen in the first game. He's facing Anish Giri, the Dutch, who in the first game played a draw against Yana Pomnyachi. Now, David, jumping into the position, is anyone winning this one?
Wow. I don't think either side's winning right now, but it is a crazy position. So much has happened.
Wow.
I mean, it's very hard to evaluate as well. I see that White's king is under attack on the left side there. Black's king, meanwhile, is much safer. That being said, White is actually material ahead. Maybe if we bring up the analysis board just to get the hang of some of the key factors in the position, we do see a trade here as well. So this is the current position. White's king is a bit open. This black bishop very nicely placed around that king. We have seen a trade of pawns as well. The material imbalance, though, we see here. White has 2 rooks, black only has 1. That being said, it's a rook for bishop advantage. So this is kind of a 2-point advantage. Meanwhile, black does have 1 extra pawn. So White is slightly ahead of material, but it's all going to come down to whose king is safer. And we've seen a huge development. Levon Aronian's last move, a very surprising one. He's ignored an attack on this pawn in the middle. I thought he would have to defend that. He's ignored that. He's trying to trap this black bishop. His last move, pushing this pawn up 1 square. This black bishop, I said it was strong just a moment ago. It's now actually trapped. And this is so hard to evaluate. Basically, I think he's playing for playing a bit tricky here. Black could capture this pawn, attacking a rook here, attacking a rook. And wow.
Oh, it's happened. It's happened and it's over the board. Oh, wow. This is sharp, sharp stuff, David. And just as a little bit of a trivia, which opening do you think this was?
Kaya, what opening do you think it was?
Could it be the Najdorf?
Yes, we have a tweet from Chess24. It says, Giri's dedication to promoting his chessable Najdorf course is very impressive. And there you can see the results there. And the bar certainly agrees it's very impressive.
That's right. It's Kaya's favourite opening. It's Anish Giri's new favourite opening. I know I'm going to go and buy that chessable course because my knowledge on the Najdorf is very shaky at best. I'm always a bit scared because the Najdorf, it's such an aggressive opening. Black just wants to play for a counter-attack very early on in the game. It's always very imbalanced. Crazy stuff happens. So any attacking players out there or any players who like to attack the opponent's king, This, I mean, the Najdorf is a great weapon as black, and go check out Anish Giri's course. But meanwhile, this position, it's just exploded into life. We chose the right moment to jump in, for sure. And white's last move, bringing that knight back, keeps the king nice and protected. That knight also eyes up that black bishop in the corner there. That black bishop on the left side is completely trapped. Black might be able to win one of the rooks for his bishop, or win one of the white rooks for his central bishop. But if he loses that piece in the corner, it will all be over. And Anish Giri is actually leaning in, and he only has one move here, actually, to avoid a huge disadvantage, to kind of stay in the game. And it's not an obvious one. Maybe we can bring up the board just to show Anish Giri. Yeah.
Certainly not obvious at all, absolutely. And yeah, go for it, David, because I can't wait to see what you show us, because wow.
Yeah, this is a wild position. This bishop is attacking two rooks, but at the moment it cannot take either of them, because if it moves, the black queen will be undefended behind it. Therefore, black should move his rook forward. He should use his rook to defend this queen. Also, white is sometimes threatening to check the black king, and by pushing his rook forward, if white decides to give a check, the black king can just step forward. So a kind of multi-purpose move, but it's not obvious at all for humans, especially Anish Giri with less than 2 minutes on his clock. Levon, almost 16 minutes.
I was going to say that.
That's crazy.
Look at the time difference. It's just absolutely unheard of,
Wow.
16 minutes.
I didn't even notice that. I was like, girl, so still so early in the game.
No, this
Wow.
is razor sharp. And yes.
You know what, guys? I think move 27, I just have a feeling Levon Aronian, he might have actually studied this position before.
This exact position.
I mean, 27 moves, it sounds crazy to have gone so deep, but maybe he's watched Anish Giri's video course. Maybe he knows what Anish Giri recommends, or maybe he's seen a game that Anish has played before, and he's just predicted every single move in advance. So, I mean, that would be fantastic homework, if that's true. Okay, meanwhile, Anish Giri has found the correct move, the best move for black there, defending the black queen with his rook. 1 minute on the clock, though, against 16 minutes almost.
Yeah, exactly. This is just a serious time deficit. It really is, because it's still incredibly sharp. There is so many accurate moves that Anish has to find. And when the clock starts ticking down, we do know that the panic sets in, the hand starts getting happy and starts trying to find these automatic moves. Maybe there's even the danger that you pre-move and you pre-move in the wrong way. Oh, this is kind of all the factors of online chess. And yeah, but also, Levon can just relax and work everything out.
Definitely. But I mean, one fact, obviously, Levon played extremely fast here. But I mean, Anish also playing unusually slow here.
That's right, and that's just because the position is so imbalanced, it's so wild and complicated. It's not kind of a traditional game like we saw against between Wesley So and Magnus. It's not where you can just slowly improve your pieces, follow general rules like controlling the centre. This one, it's about going for checkmate and counting the pieces, trying to calculate 3, 4, 5 move variations. So this one is extremely complicated. That's what makes me think that Levon Aronian, he's studied something similar before, at least. But Anish Giri, yeah, it's going to be a battle against not just the clock, not just the position, battle against Levon Aronian's homework. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Levon move one of his rooks now. He can give a check with his rook. We mentioned that a bit earlier. He could also, that rook at the bottom corner there, it's not doing anything again. He could just bring it towards the centre. Lots and lots of choice for Aronian. Meanwhile, that black bishop as well, it's trapped in the corner of the board. Yeah,
that's going to be playing on Anish's mind, because if he lets the initiative, his attack lose momentum, that bishop is going to get eaten, and there's just nothing to do about that one. So yeah, he has to. I mean, I for one, as white, I would not be. The big cardinal sin here is if Levon looks at the clock time and goes, "Ooh, on the verge of winning," and gets overexcited and starts playing quickly. No, Levon, but these guys are super experienced. So he will just know that he has to just simply carry on, maintaining the pressure, asking his opponent questions. And yeah, I don't expect Levon to play rook check. I expect something a little less committal.
Less direct, yeah. And actually, this is one tip as well for everyone at home. As someone myself who gets low on time in every single game, what I want, actually, my opponents to do is I want them to play just as quickly as me. I want them to put pressure on me on the clock, because that shows that they're equally as nervous as I am. That means I can kind of play on the adrenaline. But if they stop for 5-10 minutes, just sit there calmly, take a long think, then suddenly the adrenaline drains out of me, I lose my rhythm, and it's just hard to stay focused when you're in this state of kind of increased sensitivity. So yeah, I think Levon Aronian, as Jovanka mentioned, he should spend 5-6 minutes here just working things out, being 100% sure he knows what's going on. He shouldn't worry about Anish Giri's clock time.
No, he shouldn't let it affect his decision-making too much. And especially because he knows that he can, like, now is the time to kind of steady the ship, keep everything calm, and then use that long-term problem of that trapped black bishop, and everything will be great.
That's right. I think he should just sort out the attack on his rooks. So move one of the rooks right now, and long-term that bishop will drop off, that black bishop. So it's just about not rushing, both on the clock and the position, actually.
Isn't it hard? I heard some players say this before, that when your opponent has little time on the clock, it's easy to start rushing yourself because the opponent plays fast moves. And then maybe even if you have a lot of time, you get sort of fooled into playing fast yourself.
Yeah, you just get caught up in the adrenaline. You know, they're playing fast and you're like, ooh, yes, let's speed up. And before you know it, you're also playing as quickly as they are, and you then finish the game in an incredible amount of speed, and everyone turns to you and says, well, why didn't you slow down? Yeah, well, I didn't think about it too much.
Maybe it's easier in online chess then, when you don't have that over the board.
Everything is intense. It's so much intensified in online chess. You know, whatever you feel over the board, it's multiplied by 10, because you can always see that clock ticking down, and you're there ready with a mouse, and you're ready to make that move. Yeah. And somehow it's just so much more intense than it is over the board.
Yeah, that's right. And Levon, we saw him lean back, just adjust himself. He's fully aware of these kind of phenomenons of all the psychology of time trouble.
Maybe you should have sort of these post-its on your screen to sort of remind you of take your time, or
deep breaths.
I'll tell you what, the best advice: sit on your hands. This is the stuff that you tell the children. You know?
Don't do the trigger-happy mouse.
Yeah, exactly. Sit on your hands and just and then look around the board, and then you make your move. But yeah, and then you have to probably do exactly the same thing with your mouse. Just like not have your hand over the mouse. Just kind of.
What would be on your post-it, David?
Just play better moves. I'd have hundreds of post-its. I'm not sure the players, are they allowed that though? Would that be kind of external help? I know that we crack down on the cheating. We have cameras all around. Imagine if we have these cameras and we just see post-it notes.
Yeah, that's true.
You can do it.
You can do it.
If you being cute, yeah.
Well, that wouldn't be cheating. You're allowed to motivate yourself.
True.
Yeah.
Actually, there was a famous case a few years ago in the American Championship. Wesley So, he was writing notes to himself on the back of his score sheet where we kind of notate the moves, and that isn't allowed, actually. And
we have a flurry of moves.
Meanwhile, we have seen a lot of moves. So Levon Aronian, he decided in that position, he went with your advice, actually, Jovanka.
The bar.
Yeah, the bar swung all the way across to white side. So he took Jovanka's advice. He moved this rook, which was attacked in the corner. He just swung that across, and Anish Giri decided, OK, this tension along this line is just too much. He took the rook with his bishop. We see a lot of trades. The queen's left the board. And actually, if we do a count here, white has a rook and knight. Normally, the rook's worth 5, the knight worth 3, against 2 bishops. The bishop's worth 3 points each. More importantly, though, the black bishop is trapped. And in this position, we did see a couple more moves. We saw, OK, the black king jumped forward and white just moved across with his rook. So now he's possibly eyeing up a check against the black king. More importantly, though, I think he has a sneaky idea in mind. He wants to bring his rook across and try and eventually trap this bishop. The reason white cannot capture this bishop at the moment is because the knight is actually pinned. That means that the knight cannot move because the king is behind it. A very tense situation. I think white is doing fantastically well, but still some chances for Anish.
Still some chances. I mean, it's, the only chance that I can see is that's what I was thinking. Just get going with the pawns on the right side. Try to push them. Try to create some kind of activity there, just to keep that white rook at bay. Because, like you said, if that white rook manages to munch on this bishop and there's no... But OK.
Yeah, and actually, Anish...
Is that just a blunder?
Yeah, Anish, he pushed a pawn forward, but that pawn was just taken by a white rook. And Anish actually, I mean, it was almost imperceptible, but he just widened his eyes as if he hadn't even seen that move as possible. Maybe he was just focusing so much on that left side of the board that he just forgot that Levon could capture his pawn. And now he's been, I mean, he's lost his best chance by pushing those pawns forward. He should maybe have kept those moves for a bit later on. But now that pawn's disappeared, White's rook is going behind again. White's rook is deep in the enemy territory. White's rook is going to swing across and try and capture that black bishop that's trapped, that has been trapped for so long. It's looking terminal for Nishikori, and we see the Stockfish evaluation of the bar, the computer there. It does think that White is winning.
Yeah, and you can see Anish has just moved the bishop to try to prevent White's plan, but I think it is a little bit futile because the rook, okay, that bishop can only cover light squares, and the rook, of course, is so flexible, can move on the dark squares, and yeah. And
we see Levon Aronian push a pawn there. Maybe we bring up the board, we can see one trap that Nishikori set up on the last move. He played a very sneaky one. If Levon was short of time, he might have pre-moved, so he might have made this move in advance to come and try and capture this bishop. This is something that I wanted to do last move. It was what I was aiming for. But Black's last move, very sneaky. It keeps an eye on this square, so preventing Levon's idea. So if Levon, if he panicked, if he kind of just rushed a bit, he would have lost his rook. Instead, he just pushes his pawn slightly closer to the promotion square. If it gets to the end of the board, it will become a new queen. And I think, actually, Nishikori, he's just stuck. There's not much he can do. This bishop, trapped. He's essentially playing without a piece. There's not too much hope here, unfortunately.
And not too much time, 19 seconds for Nishikori. It is Levon Aronian in the move, though. He's just moving under 10 minutes. Such a...
Yeah, and there you can see it. The rook is travelling on the dark squares.
That's right.
And it's got his eyes, as David says, on that poor trapped bishop that cannot make a move.
Yeah, that black bishop, it's doomed. He just has to find a way to distract White, but it's always too slow. Black's pawns are not close enough to the end of the board.
Yeah, you can see that Anish has desperately tried to give up a pawn, and now the black bishop is out, but it's come at a cost. I think all of Black's pawns on the left side have disappeared, and now those pawns are just going to start queening.
That's right. White can, at his leisure, start pushing that pawn on the left side of the board. White's pawn on the right as well is very close to promotion, so it's just a matter of technique now. Levon, he moves his king out of the eye line of that black bishop in the centre of the board. Very, very calm play by Aronian. He took your advice, Jovanka. He slowed down at the key moment. He just worked out everything in advance, and he's not taking any risks. He's kept everything nice and protected. And yes, this one is not going to last for too much longer. Nishikori's bishops, normally we talk about the bishop pair as being great, but they're just not equipped now to fight against White's rook, knight, and all those pawns.
Yeah, exactly. And those pawns, once we start pushing them, they kind of have... They're not the most valuable piece, but they do have a special trump card that when they reach the edge of the board, well, basically, they can turn into a rook, a bishop, or a knight, or even a queen. And that's it. It will be game over. And, of course, you really want them to promote to a queen.
And it is game over. Levon Aronian has won this game against Nishikori, and well, Anish, he is a very good loser. He always takes it very well, and he looks over the game, and then he moves on. But I have to say, Levon Aronian, he's just looking fierce today.
Yeah, I mean, incredible form, not just in this game, also the last game against Magnus. He played the first 10, 15 moves so quickly. And this one, I mean, he pretty much, we barely blinked and he'd played the first 27 moves. So he's come prepared. Probably over Christmas, he was just in study mode. He'd activated killer mode. And yeah, Nishikori, sometimes you just got to hold your hands up and say, OK, the opponent played well, not much you can do.
Yes.
Do you think... Nishikori, he got off to such a good start. We remember in the first tournament, in the Skilling Open, he was the leader for the last day of preliminaries. What's happening to him today here? It's not looking a little bit shaky, maybe.
Yeah, slightly looking shaky, but you do have to remember it is early days. We're still two games in, and yeah, we still have 9 more rounds to play for. And these are very important rounds because, of course, after day 3, after the 11th game has been played, then the top 8 will go through onto the knockout stages. And you do have to remember it is 12 players this time in the Airthings Masters, which means that it's not as cutthroat as the Skilling Open, where 50% of the players left. It's only 4 players. So you just have to avoid doing a bad score and everything's okay.
And, well, so much fun with Levon Aronian, though. One of the players that we really love. He's such a character in the chess world, David, and he's just getting off to a great start here.
That's right, and we know that his biggest cheerleader is his dog in the room with him.
That's true.
I wonder if we'll see Pomnyachi later, but Levon Aronian, yeah, when he's in form. And actually, he brought his form at the right moments last time. In the Skilling Open, he struggled on the first couple of days, but he He powered through with some wins on the final day of the preliminaries. Here, he started much better. He's already had the world champion Magnus Carlsen. He's neutralized him. He's got that game out of the way, and now he's beaten Giri, one of his biggest rivals for qualification.
All right, well, only 2 games finished. We follow both the games that finished in round 2. Levon Aronian, who beat Giri, and Wesley So and Magnus Carlsen, who played a draw. So now we're heading into game number 3 between 2 of the wildcards coming into this tournament, Pentla Harikrishna and Daniil Dubov. David, I see the bar is just completely in the center here, just saying this is a complete draw.
I think we might be unlucky here that we've chosen a third game that's going to finish on the spot because the players have just repeated the moves.
We didn't even get to talk about one single move here.
We can talk about one move. Essentially, White gave lots of checks with the queen, and Black's king had no shelter. It couldn't hide. So we call it perpetual check. You could check forever, and that's why the game is declared a draw after 3 repetitions of the position. Essentially, in queen endgames, it's all about checks. If your king can find safety, then you might have some chances to win, but neither side's king is safe here, and the game is just naturally a draw.
Yeah, there was just no escape route for that king, you know, because you need to start planning out. It's not so much about calculation and working out the possibilities. You just have to spot that route and go, OK, the king is headed in that direction and it's safe to dash there. And here, there's just no way to escape the checks.
Yeah, that's right. Just our luck.
You just got a crash course in a perpetual check there.
Yes.
Just straight into the perpetual check. And nice to get to know some of these new players that we have in this tournament, Harikrishna and Daniil Dubov. Do these players have a chance here among the top players?
I think definitely. I've played Harikrishna many times. Actually, one of the longest games in chess history was played between me and him. Last year, we played 236 moves each in that game. I think it was like the 4th longest maybe in history. But yeah, he's a fighting player. That ended in a draw. I tried my best to win, but not quite close enough. So he's a fighter, basically. He doesn't want to settle for those draws. A draw like this one will disappoint him slightly with White against one of his direct rivals. Meanwhile, Dubov, he's just, I'm one of his biggest fans. He played just last week in the Russian Championship. He played one of the best games I've ever seen. Yeah, he defeated Sergei Karyakin, the Minister of Defense, a former World Championship challenger, with a series of spectacular sacrifices. On his day, Dubov, yeah, he could beat anyone, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him qualify. Sometimes he's maybe not as consistent as his rivals. So if he's in form,
yeah, no, Dubov, I mean, these guys are seriously good, Kaya. You know, Dubov was also world rapid champion. And then you have Pentala Harikrishna, who was in the top 10 in the world. You underestimate these guys at your peril. And they both thrive in complicated positions. And this is just what you need for this type of fast chess. So definitely they have so much to play for. So I would definitely not discount these guys.
Yeah. Definitely. And I think, yeah, anyone who underestimates them will get punished.
Yeah, and Dubov also, he's only in the start of his 20s. He's not very old, but is he one of the coaches for Magnus Carlsen as well, or one of the seconds?
That's right. I mean,
wow.
Imagine being 24 years old, you've been part of a World Champions coaching team, you've won the World Rapid Championship. It's pretty impressive.
It is very impressive, yeah. What I like about Dubov is that he looked at the style of all the greats and he was like, yeah, they're great, but I'm not going to emulate them. I'm going to make my own style. And, you know, you can see in his chess, he's aggressive, he's creative, he's kind of like a combination of all the previous world champions. It's just fantastic to watch.
Fantastic to watch. And talking about watching, in an online format that the Champions Chess Tour is, we're so entertained with watching the players on their webcams. Now when we see them on over-the-board tournaments, they're very like poker face and they're very subtle. But in these tournaments, we've seen punching of webcams and we've seen just yawning and we've seen screaming and we've seen everything. Now, what does the player think about being shown on the webcams? Look at this.
I make a point of just not looking at my opponent, so I only have my own webcam when I play, and I can only look at myself just to make sure I'm in frame and I'm looking as beautiful as always.
If you play Hikaru or Magnus, it's good from time to time to look at their faces.
These guys, they have a PhD in acting.
For me, it's nothing unusual. It's Nakamura is shaking his head after move 1 is normal. After move 50 is normal.
He tries to give away so many fake tells. I just decide that I will not try to get anything from that.
This like Hikaru does, or like this, and all these things that they do with Magnus and all these theatrical performances that they have become incredibly good at.
Personally, I think I'm a bit of an open book, but I don't really care. Like, I'm usually not satisfied with my play anyway.
They start shaking head when they blunder only when they're sure the opponent also sees it. They will never do that when they blunder something tricky, so you shouldn't be fooled.
I rarely show emotions anyway when I'm playing, even on the webcam.
I usually turn it off. I only turn it on when I'm 100% sure I'm winning, and I just want to see, how he's suffering.
Okay, so we haven't followed Alexander Grisham too much so far, but he seems so Russian just watching his opponents suffer.
We know now that he's a sadist. He likes to see them. Yeah, I mean, it's so fascinating to see the differences between online and over-the-board chess. And yeah, I know I love studying my opponent's expression over the board. I know I'd have that webcam up, but sometimes it's better not to get distracted, I guess, just focus on the moves.
How big part of an online tournament is actually these webcams for the players, do you think, Jovanka?
I think it's a big thing, it's certainly something that I think you should be mindful of. It's so easy, though, to forget that it's there because you have the board exploded up and then you have the webcam somewhere else. But I think it is very, very important just to kind of have a look, especially when it comes to a critical decision that you've kind of posed the opponent. And then you can kind of gauge whether they've been surprised, whether this was expected, whether they, are slightly off-put by the whole thing, and then you can kind of assess, and then you can kind of feel like getting the upper hand. And it's also important when their clock is ticking to see whether they're panicking.
And didn't we actually talk about this in the first game between Magnus Carlsen and Levon Aronian, when Magnus had the possibility to actually win the game, to find that move to take the rook? You said if he would be watching Levon Aronian's webcam, then he would see that Levon would be shaking his head.
Exactly.
He gave the game away, didn't he, Levon Aronian, both sets?
He lost his poker face.
He lost the poker face. There was no poker face. He immediately went, oh no, look what's happened there. And, of course, there was a one-move blunder, but Magnus didn't spot it.
Yeah.
Oh,
sorry.
No, go ahead, David.
I was going to say the danger is with the double bluffing. Sometimes the opponent might shake their head, but nothing's wrong. So you might lose 2 or 3 minutes on the clock trying to figure out, like, how did they blunder? I didn't see it. So I think a lot of mind games, a lot of mind tricks.
Yeah, in fact, that's one of the most common over-the-board things that you pull as a child. You blunder a queen, but you're threatening checkmate, and you're kind of like, ooh, the queen.
I still do that one, Jovanka. You've given away my secrets.
And then, when that queen comes off and they're like, oh, I'm very sorry, I've lost to a little girl. And you kind of go, checkmate.
But actually, when we see over-the-board tournaments, there is a lot of, it is a gentleman's sport. You're supposed to be very respectful of your opponent. You're not supposed to, make noises or be disrespectful. Is it a little bit more allowed in online chess to just scream a little bit if you want to, or just show a little bit more emotion?
Yeah, I think anything goes in online chess pretty much, and that's one of the beauties of it. This kind of, we see the players uncensored, no holds barred, just being their true selves, and the personalities come out a lot more.
Yeah, definitely, I agree that with online chess, you can kind of mute your microphone in some situations, and so you can basically hover your piece over, hover your mouse, mouth. What's happening? Hover your mouse over the piece that you think you should move, and then move it away. You would never be allowed to do that. And you can even give yourself pep talks like, "Come on, you can do this. Okay, maybe you messed up, but let's get going."
And also to use it as a psychological or tactical or giveaway, like Magnus said, he doesn't like to watch Nakamura because he gives away fake tells. He wants to maybe look like he's losing, but instead maybe he's feeling very confident.
Yeah, I mean, especially for the players who are maybe newer to the field, like Hare Krishna, like Dubov, they might not know their opponents as well. So it's harder to read the tells. I mean, for Magnus and Nakamura, who've played each other hundreds, maybe thousands of times, yeah, I'm sure he's seen it all before, so he doesn't need to look at the camera.
All right. Well, so much fun with these online tournaments, watching the players' webcams. And we do know that they do like to watch each other as well from time to time. Now, we do have two excellent chess players in the studio helping us understand everything. Me, myself, I'm quite new to chess. I'm not very experienced with playing, but I'm trying to learn. And during the Airthings Master, we will let you guys follow as I try to learn a little bit more in chess. And this is episode 1, and Kaya tries to learn chess. Yay! All right, easy start. Next one. Ooh, okay. I need to do better in this next one. How about this one? I'll try that one. No. Oh, the other side. Ah. And now Mr. Scheibel would say, you resign now. And he keeps moving. Give up. Give up. Okay, this was quite hard. This was quite hard, I have to say. And I definitely feel the time pressure. I got the congratulations. I think I learned something today as well. Yay. All right, chessable challenge. How did I do, Jovanka?
Yeah, you did great. Slightly, you should have moved the knight to the center. Then you could have done the trick where you would have gone, oh, look, I blundered a queen.
I sometimes do these challenges and you know, I'm looking, and I feel stressed that I have to find the move. And when I suddenly see it, I'm like, oh, why did I not see that right away?
You should just have our voices in your head.
I know.
If you'd remembered Jovanka's phrase, the octo knight, knight's in the middle of the board, bring that knight to the center. So close. They were hard positions, though, to be fair.
Exactly.
They did throw you in at the deep end.
Yeah, well, I'm learning, and it's interesting to learning, and chess is a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun to be playing. Now, we have seen three games finish in round 2 of the Airthings Masters, and we did follow Wesley So and Magnus Carlsen in the first game, David. It ended in a draw there, but Wesley had one interesting move that we talked about. Maybe we can actually go through that game and see what happened when he sort of offered his pawn there, but it was a great thought behind it.
That's right, yeah, sure. We did see kind of a very timid opening from Wesley, so maybe not the most ambitious opening he's ever played in his life, but the critical moment came when he pushed a pawn forward to attack this black bishop. This pawn now eyeing up the bishop, asking a difficult question. What do you do, Magnus, with that bishop? And Magnus spent a long time on the clock here, 5-6 minutes. He was just debating, does he capture this knight? Does he take this pawn? It looks like that pawn might be kind of for free right now, or does he retreat his bishop? But the problem is his bishop just came from there. So after a long think, Magnus decided it's time to capture this pawn. We didn't like that decision here in the studio. I know I was very critical of it. Jovanka wasn't a huge fan either. This allowed the white rook, which was previously dormant in the corner here. This white rook was doing nothing at all. It didn't have any good squares, any open lines. Suddenly, it swung across to attack this black bishop. And this bishop, when it did move, Wesley So captured a pawn. So this white rook has gone from being a terrible piece, a very passive piece, not taking part in the game, to being the best piece on the board, attacking this pawn. Very active in the enemy camp. We did see a trade of bishops, and after Magnus Carlsen dropped his rook back to defend this pawn, we can compare the pieces. White's rook is very active. It's doing an attacking job, attacking the pawn. Black's piece, we would call that passive because it's doing a defensive job. And here, I think Wesley had a few very nice options. What I probably would have done is I'd have retreated my rook slightly, just attacking this undefended pawn in the center of the board. You always want to look for pieces that don't have any protection. For example, if Black decides to spend a move protecting it, he could, again, start attacking things. This knight is the one undefended this time. The knight might have to retreat, for example, to go back, and suddenly White can start jumping forward. Suddenly the white knight, the white rook, they're very nicely placed. Meanwhile, Black's pieces, they're kind of cramped. This rook is stuck, doing a very sad defensive job. I think this would have given Wesley So great winning chances. Still, maybe Magnus Carlsen could have held this if he was accurate, but he could have tested the world champion. Instead, going back a few moves, he just pretty much silently offered a draw. He just allowed the knights to be exchanged. He offered a trade here, and after Black captured this pawn, there was nothing left to do. Both sides have a rook, both sides have 4 pawns, but more importantly, there's no way to checkmate, no way to get a pawn to the end of the board and make a promotion. So after a few more checks, we did see a repetition of the position, and the game was a draw. A missed opportunity, Wesley So.
Missed opportunity, and Magnus usually gets very annoyed when his opponents sort of doesn't push for the win when he sees they actually have an opportunity for it.
That's right. I think Magnus would have been slightly annoyed, but slightly relieved. He would have been thinking, OK, I might have had to defend that position for the next 20 minutes, for the next 50 moves, but instead he got away with a quick escape and he gets a long break before the next game.
Exactly, yeah.
It's like this Magnus effect. I think against, if Wesley had been playing myself or perhaps even yourself, I think he would never, ever have chosen that knight move.
He'd want to crush us.
Exactly. He'd want to play, want to make sure that actually, hey, we should prove that we know how to draw. But it's like some Magnus kind of effect, like, ooh, you know, some magic powder gets thrown into the air and Wesley's like, OK, draw. And slightly disappointing, but again, Magnus is very, very lucky.
And you mentioned it also, David. The game was over after 20 minutes or something like that. It was very fast. So they do now have a lot of time. It's a little bit less than 10 minutes until the third round starts. How are they spending the time when they have so much time in between games?
Yeah, when they have so much time, it's very important just to relax, just to refocus the mind and just look ahead, because you have 2 more games to play. And yeah, you just have to be in the best mental shape there. And you can't be dwelling on the fact that maybe you missed an opportunity. You just have to, OK, let's take a pause, recharge.
Will they actually maybe leave the house, David, go for a walk, get some fresh air? Or will they just stay in the mode, do you think, and maybe eat something and look at the next games?
And actually, in the last tournament, we see a lot of players. We saw a lot of players just sitting at the computer, analysing their previous games, maybe studying some of their next opponents' previous games, just to try and kind of predict the opening stages. I think snacks are always good. I always have a bit of chocolate, maybe a banana there, just to have that little boost of energy. Fresh air is always good as well, but chess players, we forget. We get so carried away, right, by the next game. We want to feel 100% prepared, 100% ready. Sometimes we forget to prioritise these things. We just get too carried away with the board, and especially with the computer analysis, it's so tempting to just sit there.
Yes.
A walk in the park is good, but yeah, I think the players, they'll be sitting there at the computer.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, round 2 of the Airthings Masters have finished. All games are done, and these are the results. Wesley So, Magnus Carlsen, they played a draw, and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave and Ikaru Nakamura also played a draw. Hikaru won that first game, we know. Now, in the game, the all-Russian game between Pomnyachi and Grisham. Grisham won that game.
Yeah,
wow. You guys said Pomnyachi might be the favorites.
Yes, maybe, but, you know, you cannot discount Alexander Grisham. You know, he has been World Blitz champion 3 times. He is such a dangerous player. And, yeah, you can't discount him. And, as you can see, he defeated Ian Pomnyachi.
And as we know, Levon Aronian also beat Anish Giri. We followed that game. Magnus Carlsen, Wesley, so that was the draw, as we talked about. Timor Rojabov, he got a win against David Anton. Maybe not the biggest surprise. David Anton is an underdog in this tournament, David.
Yeah, that's right, David Anton. He is an underdog, but he did get voted back in by the public because he did so well in that Skilling Open, especially on that first day. He caused a few upsets. He beat some very strong players, Pomnyachi and others. I think maybe in this pool of sharks, when everyone is out for blood, maybe he just needed that quick start to give him a bit of a confidence boost. Now they'll all be circling, they'll all be trying to pounce. I'm hoping he can bounce back today.
Yes. I'm hoping that too. But, you know, I have to say, Rojabov is probably feeling extra happy because he, of course, lost to David Anton in the Skilling Open in the preliminary section there. So it'll be extra sweet. But yes, he won.
And we do now have 3 players on top of the table with 1.5 points. Nakamura, Levon Aronian, and Timor Rojabov. Really 3 of the big favorites, David.
Yeah, that's right. But it will be interesting to see their strategy for the next few rounds. Do they settle for what they've got? Do they just play solid? The risk is that if 1 or 2 losses and they could just they could plummet in the rankings, or do they try and push on? Do they use that momentum and try and secure their place before the final day in the knockout stages?
All right, well, one player that really needs to fight back after loss in the second round is one of our favorite players, Anish Giri. Such a wonderful chess player, such a fun guy. And I'm going to show you something now that is very interesting, actually, because Anish Giri, he's got a love for his wife, obviously, but he's got a love for one more thing. Take a look at this. The love for the French defense, David.
That's right. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the opening, but I'm a huge fan of that video. And Anisha's wife as well, Sopiko Guramishvili, such a strong player. I mean, imagine sitting in on some of their analysis sessions, just studying these openings. And he does have that video course on Chessable, which I hugely recommend checking out.
Yeah, and of course, she also has a lot of chess videos on Chess24. She's known as Miss Tactics on that site. So it's absolutely brilliant. And I just love that video as well. When it came out, I was like, wow. It is another level.
Yeah. It is beautiful. Now, we are doing a quiz today, and we will do a quiz every day during the Airthings Masters. The quiz of today is, the question we're asking is, who is the reigning Fisher Random World Champion, Jovanka? Such an interesting question. And how do people answer this to contend for the prize of the premium membership, 1 year premium membership on Chess24?
Yes, you have to submit your answer with the hashtag #ChessChamps. And yes, do we have any prizes for guessing? We do have a Chess24 Premiership. Oh, let me start again. So the prize of this quiz is a 1 year's premium membership on a Chess24. Do we know the answer here?
I know the answer.
Yes.
You know, we all know the answer.
I think I know the answer too, but we should maybe tell people what Fisher Random, maybe they don't actually know what Fisher Random is. What is Fisher Random?
Yeah, Fisher Random is a special variant of chess, which was recently actually introduced by the FIDE, which is the regulation board, as an official variant of chess. And what it is that you start with the pieces all jumbled up. The only rule is that the king must be between the two rooks. And then there's like a drawing of lots where they go, well, knight goes on the first spot where the rook should be, and then everything is completely messed up. And you get the most random, well, hence the name, positions. And it's such a strange game because you can have a situation where your queen is in the corner and every single piece is just like, whoa, what is that? And it's just incredibly unusual.
All right. And one player is the world champion in the Fisher Random. So if you know the answer, just tweet us using the hashtag #ChessChamps, and you will be contending for the prize of 1 year premium membership on Chess24. Now we are looking forward to the next round. It will start in 3 minutes, and we've seen a lot of draws so far, David. Do you think players now will be feeling, okay, we've started, I'm ready, I'm going to go for some wins now?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the first couple of rounds, from my own experience, there's always a bit of nerves, right? You don't want to kind of be eliminated from the running by losing a couple of games at the beginning. Your confidence will be shattered. Some of the players who have made a couple of draws, they will be looking for their right moment to pounce, to strike. And I think as the days go on, players get more tired as well. There will be more mistakes, more decisive results.
Yeah.
All right. Now these are, let's take a look at the 6 games that we will see now in round 3. Game 1, Daniel Dubo, he's going to face Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. Next game will be between David Anton and Pentlahari Krishna. Third game, Magnus Carlsen facing Timor Rojabov. And then we have Alexander Grisham, who won his last game. He's now going to face Levon Aronian, who also won. Okay, Jovanka, who's the favorite in this game now?
Well, I definitely would be both guys feeling the momentum, but I still have to edge it with Levon Aronian. You know, he has got 1.5 points out of 2, and he had such a great start holding that game against Magnus Carlsen and, of course, beating Anish Giri with using virtually no time on the clock. That has to feel good. So, yeah, Levon Aronian.
All right, next game is going to be between Ikaru Nakamura, who's looking super confident today. He's facing
against Wesley, because Wesley is very solid, and perhaps he just wants to get Wesley out of his comfort zone.
That's right, especially with black. Actually, we've seen it with white already this tournament. Wesley so sometimes happy to just make draws, to be solid. And here with the black pieces, I think Wesley will be relatively happy with the outcome. As we see Anish Giri have a bit of a think here. White essentially needs to decide how and when to open up the position. Wow, that last move is very mysterious. I did not expect it. If we bring up the analysis board, we can see a couple of ideas for both sides. White's last move, very unexpected for me, is to play his queen across here. And I just have a feeling this is probably, as you mentioned, Jovanka, it is home preparation. This is an idea Anish Giri has prepared before. He brought this queen across. It looks like a very odd square blocking in this rook. This white rook now has nowhere to go. It's completely blocked in. But white has 2 ideas. He wants to bring his queen forward and create a kind of battery along this diagonal with the queen and bishop using teamwork, ganging up together against a weak black pawn. The other idea is to activate the other rook, maybe lining up this rook with the black queen. I think black, meanwhile, has to decide how is he going to develop his pieces. Black's bishop at the moment is a bit blocked. His rooks need to be connected to each other. This one is going to liven up, but promising start, lots of tension still at the moment. Okay,
Yeah.
Wesley So gaining space in the centre there with a pawn.
So yes, this has been seen before. This idea has been seen before, but only once. So we're definitely in Anish Giri's preparation. And now, after Wesley's response, we are actually completely new territory.
Wow, yeah. I mean, I'm learning something just as much as the people at home. This is something I've never seen before. It's very, very rare. Both sides had lots and lots of options in the earlier stages. And now with Anish Giri's last move, just pushing a pawn up, it looks very modest, but he's just preparing to push his other central pawn 2 squares forward. The white pawn there that usually starts in front of the queen. He's going to explode the centre, and he's arguing that white is more ready than black. And Wesley So decides to push forward. He's pushing another pawn forward. Wesley So is taking as much space as he can. We talk about space. If your pawns are further forward, you just have more space to manoeuvre your pieces. You have more squares, more scope to manoeuvre your pieces behind those pawns. So Wesley, he's pushing his pawns forward first with black. His pieces will come after. Meanwhile, Anish Giri, he has to justify the reason for that kind of slightly strange queen move. He has to justify allowing black to gain all this space.
Yeah, but it's very committal. You know, this is the thing with pawn moves, is that you can't take them back. And yes, it's true, it's gained a lot of space, but I also think it's a little bit risky, because if it goes wrong, well, that's it. You know, he's too many weaknesses around the king, and no king wants to be surrounded by empty space. And you can see, like, Anish, it's very calm. He just ignored this kind of space and was like, OK, I'm going to play on the left side of the board. No big deal. Yeah,
that's right. You do touch on a key point there. Actually, when I first started the game, when I was a beginner, I used to just push all my pawns forward. But then it took me a long, long time to realise, but pawns, they're the only piece that don't move backwards, therefore they do create weaknesses behind them. Sometimes you want pawns covering squares, especially weak squares. You don't want your pieces tied down to them. That being said, I do like Wesley So's push of those pawns. Now he's just brought his other bishop out. Black's rooks are now connected. All of Black's pieces, they're on very nice active squares. I think Black will next bring the rooks towards the centre. Anish, he just needs to open things up. White, at the moment, is camped in his first 3 ranks. That means for the white, he definitely needs to take action quickly. You can't just slowly sit there and let your opponent suffocate you by pushing everything forward.
Yeah. You kind of have to think of these positions like a spring, you know, yes, you're cramped for a while, but then, you know, you're looking for a way to release it, and they have to make that break to explode it open. And I think we're seeing stage 1 being implemented there. The queen and the bishop have aligned themselves on that beautiful long diagonal.
That's right. And we mentioned a couple of plans earlier on. White has actually used both of those plans. White has pushed his rook across, and he's lined up his queen and dark squared bishop along the same diagonal. White was eyeing up one of Black's central pawns there. Therefore, Black does defend that central pawn with his bishop. Black's bishop's very nice in the centre of the board. Yeah, I think this one is still in the balance. As Jovanka mentioned, it's like a spring. White is so flexible. He will jump forward at some point. It's just about whether Wesley So, as Black, is ready for those developments, ready for some action to happen.
All right, well, we do know that Anish Giri needs to strike back after losing in the last round against Levon Aronian. Wesley So, he seems very confident, and he also said that going into this tournament after winning the last one. He's played so much online chess over the last year. He's gotten very confident with it, and he's also said that, you know, starting out the year, he didn't even have a nice computer mouse, and he only had like a very small laptop. He bought a big screen. He's really getting into this online format, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see, you know, with his big success at the Skilling Open, it's kind of reaped its rewards. He's definitely into it, and he has such a beautiful style, so natural. He knows where to put his pieces, and it just really suits the online game. It's just the only thing with Wesley is that he's a little bit too pragmatic for his own good. You know, when you saw that against Magnus Carlsen, he could have played on, pushed Magnus a little bit harder, and he chose not to. So, yeah, we will see. But definitely, I love seeing Wesley play. It's beautiful.
That's right. I mean, both of these players, actually, they both rarely ever lose. It's just because they just have such a nice, fluid style. All of their pieces, you never see either of them, especially Wesley, actually, you never see them with a bad piece on the board. They talk to their pieces, they centralize everything, they coordinate them, keep everything nicely guarded. And yeah, I mean, especially with Wesley as well. He just never blunders. He sees everything. The only way to beat him is to slowly accumulate lots of strategic edges and then hope that eventually that's enough. But he's very tenacious. And Anish Giri as well. He does draw a lot of games traditionally, but lately he's been a bit more ambitious, a bit more aggressive. And this opening shows that despite the white knight retreating, that is kind of an aggressive move. That knight will jump forward a bit later on. And also the bishop, the white bishop in front of white's king there, it's now opened up that diagonal. That bishop's scope has improved, its line of vision has improved. So, yeah.
We see the bar. It's just completely in the middle, saying this is completely a draw right now. Maybe you could show us on the analysis board. I mean, do they have any possibilities to sort of push for the win?
Yeah.
What should they do here to be able to win the game?
Definitely. The bar says it's in the middle, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a draw. It just means that the position is equal. And even being equal doesn't necessarily mean that the position is, in fact, just equal. Because you can still have plenty to play for. There's still the possibility of going wrong. And then, you know, on the flip side, you also have positions where there's like nothing can go wrong. And this, I'm afraid, is going to be one of those positions where absolutely everything will be there to play for.
That's right. There's so much tension. And at the moment, the one thing I like about white's pieces are these bishops. This bishop just has so much scope on the long diagonal. This is actually the longest diagonal in chess. You want your bishops on these very, very nice lines. Bishops are also long-range pieces. And as well, white's queen and bishop lined up together. Black's last move, bringing his rook towards the centre. We mentioned Wesley, so he never forgets any piece. He's improved his worst-placed piece. I think it's time for Anish Giri to decide. Does he go for something a bit controversial? Does he capture this knight to weaken the central pawn? Instead, he just pushes forward.
Oh, look at the bar.
That last move, I don't like it at all. We said that Anish Giri needs to push forward. Now this pawn, I mean, it's advanced one square, so it should be on a better square, but I think he's actually worsened this pawn. It's eyed up by the black rook, and now white's knight, I thought it wanted to jump forward a bit later on. Now it's completely passive. It's tied down to the defense of this pawn. We said knights on the edge, fall off the hedge, knights on the rim are dim. This white knight, it only controls 4 squares rather than the traditional 8. It's very badly placed, and I think it's time for Wesley So to exchange off this beautiful bishop that we were talking about, this white bishop. It's also the best defender of white's king right now.
Yeah.
So Wesley So could exchange that off. We see Stockfish disagrees with me slightly, but it also wants to go for the same idea. It wants to attack the white king.
Yeah, and now I think that we're going to see your plan put into operation, because if we bear in mind Wesley's last move, which was centralizing the rook, it's getting that exchange lined up, and it's such a classical kind of maneuver that you exchange off this bishop because it weakens the king. And you remember what we said about like the king having lots of squares around it, being super uncomfortable. You always have to worry about a king in that kind of situation. And one thing that really worries me is that the queen is on the left side of the board, the white king is on the right side of the board. Not happy there, and you have to combine that with white's lack of space. Yes, I think something has gone wrong for Anish.
Yeah, the last 2 moves in conjunction with each other, I don't think they're very consistent. And there we see, okay, Wesley, he has followed, he's chosen the line that, the move that I wanted him to play. He's just trying to exchange off one of white's better pieces, that bishop in front of white's king. Just white's pieces, they're all in the first 3 ranks. They're so cramped. What is that white rook doing, for example, in the corner there, on the bottom left corner? It's just doing nothing right now. So it will become a race. Can Wesley So attack white's king before white gets organised?
Yeah.
I think yes, but...
Well, we have it. David thinks yes. I think yes. Well, what do you at home think? You know, join in the fun, join in the conversation, and answer the question. Do you think Wesley will be able to punish Anish's passive play? Well, if you think something, please get involved, and you can do this by tweeting us by using the hashtag #ChessChamps.
Okay, interesting move here. We see the bar shift even more over to Wesley So's side with Anish's pawn move.
That's right, and Anish, I think he was getting a bit desperate here. He's just trying to distract black from a potential attack on the right side. So Anish, he pushed a pawn on the left there. He's trying to open things up for those white rooks, which at the moment are just doing absolutely nothing. We do see the bishops leave the board in the meantime. And Wesley, he has options. He can just allow a trade of one set of pawns on that left side, but sooner or later, he should just start pushing those pawns towards the white king. Black's pawns in the centre there, very nicely placed, but they'll be even stronger if they push forward. Lots and lots of options for Wesley, so I think there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
I think he's got lots
So you think if you were playing black, would you just go immediately for the kill? Because I would.
You would?
I would pick up my pawn and I would start trying to go for an attack immediately.
Yeah, that's right. And maybe if we bring up the board just to see how he might attack, how Wesley So might attack. I think Jovanka is a big fan of just pushing this pawn forward, trying to open up a line for the black rook towards the white king. If a pawn gets further down, a pawn on this kind of square is always going to be checkmating ideas against the white king, even if it involves a sacrifice. Maybe Wesley So he doesn't like to take too many risks. Maybe he'll deal with this tension first. Maybe he'll just capture a pawn. White would attack the rook. Maybe he'll just move this rook. And I think Wesley, he doesn't need to rush even. His position is that good, whether he goes directly for the king or whether he doesn't. And actually, those two moves are the top choices of the computer right now.
All right, well, it is intense. It is Wesley So in the move. He's been thinking for almost 2 minutes in his last move. Now, we have been seeing some graphics on Airthings. Now, Airthings, we've partnered up with Airthings for this tournament and for the Champions Chess Tour. And it's actually following the air quality where the players are sitting. And we're not right now in the bottom of the screen seeing the air quality where Anish Giri is sitting. And I can see a red cloud there, which is not, the red is not good. You want all the things to be green. So it's not the best air quality for Anish Giri right now. We'll take a look at Wesley So as well, but we do have some moves, David.
That's right. So just as predicted, we've seen a pair of pawns leave the board, and black's rook was under attack from white's bishop, so that rook has jumped forward one square. Wesley So still in control. Meanwhile, we also see his air quality levels. I was actually very lucky. I got to talk to some people from Airthings, and I heard that the carbon dioxide levels, you definitely want them under 1,000.
Really?
I think ideally closer to 500, if I remember correctly. And so even Wesley So, it's not red there, the carbon dioxide levels on the left. We see 875, but I think it's still not ideal.
Yeah, but for Anish Giri, it was worse. It was over 1,000, as you said. That was red. And I mean, one of the most important things for chess players when they go into these online formats, playing from home, must be the air quality where they're sitting. It must have a huge amount to say.
That's right. You want fresh air. You want your brain working properly. You don't want to kind of get a foggy mind. And air quality is definitely a big factor. It'll be interesting to see what the players kind of think about this as well, whether they maybe thought that this affected their thinking or whether the air quality in the room just matches up with the critical moments in the game.
Yeah, definitely the stress and everything. So we do have a slight criticism from Wesley So's play from Bob Beakey. He says Wesley obviously has the skill and vision, but he just lacks that extra gumption. He needs to get more ruthless and punish his opponents more. #ChessChamps. But having said that, what move did we see on the board? You know, we asked from Wesley and he's now about to deliver because he has pushed his pawn forward and he wants to take a wrecking ball to white's king. I love that kind of chess.
Exactly. That pawn will act as a battering ram. It will just explode open the kind of safe structure that white has built around his king right now. That will be safe no longer. Black's pawn, it will open up some lines. Even if black has to sacrifice something, sacrifice a pawn or two, as long as he can open up lines towards white's king, I think Wesley will be very happy. This isn't maybe the traditional Wesley So style to go directly for the attack, but I think he's very adaptable. If the opponent allows him to attack, why not?
Exactly.
And, meanwhile, Anish Giri is in big trouble. That white rook in the bottom left-hand corner, I've talked about it, it's just not participating in the action. All of black's pieces are they're just perfectly placed. They're heading towards the centre. Yeah, the last 5-10 moves have definitely gone in Wesley So's favour.
Yes. And one of the things that we see in poker is that when you go wrong, you really go wrong, and you kind of call that tilting. And this is something that we see in online chess, that when you lose one game that perhaps you weren't expecting to lose, the second game is also a disaster, and maybe even the third game, and then you steady the ship and things start to happen. But
we did see that with Anish Giri on the last day of the preliminaries in the first tournament. He started losing, and then everything almost fell apart for him.
And he barely qualified to the knockout stages. I mean, are we seeing something similar?
Yeah, he's got to make sure it doesn't spiral out of control. I mean, I liked his opening strategy originally. I just like the kind of ambition behind the strategy, but the last few moves, it maybe shows that he didn't understand the ideas as deeply as Wesley So, and I think he's just missed the moment for White. Yeah, he just needs to find a way to survive this game, essentially. He needs to build up some defence around his king, needs to find a way to stop Wesley So from attacking him. I mean, it's easy, much easier to say than actually do it, but if he survives this game, he'll be on a high, and maybe he'll be able to carry that momentum through. If he loses again, that's...
And by surviving, because traditionally when you try to survive, you can have two approaches, which is A, you just mix up the position, make it as mad as possible, or another one is like, I learned some football terms recently, park the bus, where you throw every single piece you have towards the direction of the king. You're like, no, you're not going to get through. So what kind of strategy would you see from Anish here?
Yeah, it's difficult. I would love to park the bus in front of the goal right now and just kind of, if White's rooks, if you imagine them on the right side of the board, the queen on the right, the knight on the right, then White's king would feel nice and safe. But that takes 6-7 moves to park all the pieces on that side. And meanwhile, Wesley So, he's immediately threatening to open up some lines, immediately going for the black, for the white king. So
parking the bus. Jose Mourinho, the football coach, who is most known for parking the bus. Now, what football approach or what football coach, manager do you think would be best at chess, David?
Oh, that's hard. I did see this documentary, this Amazon documentary with Jose Mourinho, and just his motivational style was very interesting. I think he'd be great as a chess coach, maybe not as a player, but oh, that's difficult.
Yeah.
Alex Ferguson was always my idol.
Yes, he was quite mean, you know. I mean, he used to do the hairdryer treatment where during the game.
What is that?
Where he basically scolded the players and just going, you're not pulling your weight. And I mean, I really like this term actually for chess. You know, I think Anish should have a word with his pieces on the left side and go, what are you guys doing?
Should have a manager approach to this now and talk to his players.
Yes, exactly. And yeah. No, I also liked Alex Ferguson. I grew up with him, but he's a bit mean.
Well, you actually played a Premier League football player.
I did.
Just a few weeks ago, Jovanka.
I did.
Tell us about that.
It was a lot of fun. So Crystal Palace approached me and they said, hey, you know, you're local to the area. You were born in South London. One of our players would like to play a game of chess against you. And I was like, OK, cool. And, you know, I gave them time odds. And then I felt a bit guilty because he was like, it was Martin. I played Martin Kelly. He was a great defender. And, yeah, then I had to hustle him a little bit. But it was a lot of fun. And, yeah, he kind of... We discussed a little bit about, like, these football expressions and footballing strategy, how it can be applicable to chess. And, yeah, I think the video is on Chess24, actually.
Yes, we're going to try to show it here in the broadcast as well, obviously. But, OK, I just took a glance at the bar and it just shifted completely way over to Wesley So's side. What's happening, David?
Yeah, it's not looking good for Anish Giri right now. And we see the Stockfish evaluations or the suggestions below the board. And the bad news for Anish Giri as white is that Black has at least 3 moves, I think plenty more, which give a huge advantage. That means that Wesley So will not make a mistake. He will not let this advantage slip. And if we bring up the board, we can see why Black is doing so well. This last move by White, just shuffling the rook across, I kept talking about how bad this piece was in the corner. He's tried to improve it slightly. He looked like he's attacking a pawn, but actually that's not threatening a pawn at all. White is attacking this pawn with 2 pieces, the queen and the rook, but Black is also defending it with 2 pieces. And that means that White would lose material if he captures that first. Black is defending that pawn enough times. So actually, Anish Giri's last move, improving that rook, it doesn't actually do anything. So he's given Wesley So a free move to attack. What I would do, and what the computer suggests now, is to just open up a line for the Black rook, maybe by trading a couple of pawns. And now this rook is extremely strong. I would love to maybe bring the other rook, a bit of teamwork, pair them up together, line them up against this white pawn, very close to the king. Another thing you could do is just bring your queen across one square and maybe use this queen as well to attack the white king. All of black's pieces will slowly start moving towards that white king. Meanwhile, this piece is so bad at the bottom of the board. It's doing nothing. It's just doing a defensive job. It can't really jump forward again. Otherwise, it will just be targeted. One bad piece makes a position bad sometimes, and white's knight is the problem.
Absolutely. And one thing that's super important that Wesley has to do is, we came up with a nice little rhyme for this. It's like teamwork makes the dream work. And yeah, this is absolutely in Wesley's interest. He needs to be using all of his pieces to start attacking the king because he cannot let his advantage dissipate.
That's right. I don't think his advantage will dissipate. Knowing him, he loves improving those pieces slowly. And the good thing for black is there's no rush. White's knight is going to be stuck there for a long time. So he will, as black, have 4 or 5 moves to get ready for an attack. It's just about, as Jovanka mentions, that teamwork, using the rooks together, using the queen, using the knight. And actually, queen and knight are the dream attacking combo. And knight is the only piece that does something that the queen can't. So black still has that queen and knight on the board. If black's queen and knight can jump towards white's king somehow, that will spell the end. So, yeah, very, very tricky. I expect to see Wesley So. I was expecting to make a move soon. He spent 3 minutes on that. He's just trying to figure out how to improve his pieces. Now it's time for black to bring his queen into the game, and therefore he shuffles his queen across one square. It wants to leap forward and attack that white king. It's looking desperate for Nishikori. The problem is his rooks have no targets. He brings his queen forward. He's trying to stop black from advancing his own queen. Queens are great in the center of the board as well, as long as they won't get attacked too much. But that white queen is very much doing a defensive job. It's got no targets. Everything it tries to attack is defended. Actually, every single piece of black's now is defended. The coordination there. Wesley So, he just does this so smoothly. You never see any piece out of place, any piece kind of not coordinated with the rest of his army.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, white's queen is now in the black half, but the rooks are on the left, the king is on the right.
There's so much danger in the white position. It's just unbelievable, you know. And the funny thing is that if you look at white's king, you can see that it's super weak on the light squares. And look where Wesley has placed his queen. It's looking in the center, but it's also looking all the way towards the white king. So I am just really loving where this is going. You know, so many attacking possibilities.
Yeah, and do you know what I would create now, Jovanka? I would create one of your favourite pieces, the Octo Knight.
Oh!
If we bring up the analysis board, we can see one of Wesley's main options here. Maybe he can exchange a pair of pawns. I would do this sooner or later, probably just to open up this line for the rook. And once he's done this, it's time for black to improve another piece. This knight, it's doing a good job. It's nicely protected by a pawn, but it does an even better job in the centre of the board. This knight could jump in, blocking white's pawn, but this knight is now dominant. Look at how many squares it creates. We call it an octo knight because it controls 8 squares. It controls everything. It's nicely defended by the rook and the queen. Next, black will start bringing his rook over, his queen over. OK, he's done it. He's moved that knight immediately. He hasn't traded pawns yet. That knight jumps forward. And I think this knight is just so dominant that it will spell the end for Nishikori.
And Wesley has a lot of support on Twitter. We have a tweet from Nebi. He says, "Go, Wesley. Wow. Watching chess instead of writing my paper." Yes, cheering from the Philippines. Yes, hello to you too.
Fantastic. Philippines, all right.
Yeah, that's right. Wesley So, he plays for America now. He lives in America, but yeah, he used to play for the Philippines. He grew up in the Philippines, and he's got a huge fan base there. Every time I log onto a chess website, there's hundreds of comments from Filipino chess fans. And
fantastic.
Yeah, maybe that just gives him that extra energy.
Well, he needs it because it's early in the morning for Wesley So. Well, not that early anymore. It's around 10 o'clock or something like that in AM for Wesley So. Nishikori playing from the Netherlands. So it's around 5:30 for Nishikori as Wesley So made his move.
That's right. And actually, wow. Nishikori, he's just resigned. That's a very early resignation. He's given up much earlier than most of us would. But the position is so hopeless. White's king is actually in check. He would have to, I think, give up some pieces just to survive. I mean, maybe we'll show that a bit later, why he resigned, but that is shocking. I've never seen Anish Giri lose so badly with white before.
Wow, he seems extremely low on confidence.
Yeah, and to lose in 25 moves with the white pieces, it's at this level, it's unheard of. So, yeah, he's definitely looking at where he went wrong. To be honest, I agree with David. David touched on this thing that, you know, Anish chose an opening that perhaps he didn't quite understand all the subtleties, and he just went too passive.
All right, a lot of games going on. We will go over this very quick resignation from Anish Giri later on, but we have to keep following round 3 in the Airthings Masters, and we will now go to the game between Magnus Carlsen and Timor Rojabov. And, well, not much to say about the bar here. What is it looking like, David?
Yeah, we do see that the bar gives a tiny, tiny advantage for white. A quick material count, though. That's the first thing I do in every position. I always make sure I know who's up on material, who's up on pawns and everything. Black is currently a pawn ahead, but those pawns are weak. And we've talked about it before. Knights on the rim are dim. Black's knight there on the right side. It's just not coordinated with the black army at all. So white has full compensation for the pawn that he has sacrificed, but he might be able to win it back, that pawn. But will that be enough to win the game? It's not clear. Meanwhile, black's bishop is very, very ugly. Black's bishop blocked in by all of its pawns, but it's doing a good defensive job. It's keeping everything together for now. I prefer white, but probably it might fizzle out to a draw.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I prefer white. Just look at that knight in the middle of the board, my octo knight. It's so beautiful. And yeah, I agree with you that that extra pawn doesn't really count for too much because white can simply win it. And there's just so much pressure in the position. So often, sometimes the bar will just go, it's completely level. Yes, it's fine, but it doesn't really anticipate like the psychological pressure that well, black will be facing, that will be thinking, oh, my position is so unpleasant. And you can see that things actually can spiral.
That's right. I mean, it might say that the position is equal, but as in practical terms, it's easier to play white. And it's all because this black knight is so bad. And you compare it to this beautiful knight in the centre of the board, controlling so many squares. That being said, Rojabov...
Oh, look, the bar there.
I was going to say he's a very calm defender. That last move... I mean, I think it's OK, to be honest. He's just brought his king towards the centre. Maybe it was just better to improve his knight, somehow maybe bring the knight back before the king. Maybe that was more of a priority. Yeah, I think still decent drawing chances for Rojabov, but much easier to play for Magnus Carlsen. And Magnus, we saw it in the Skilling Open in the first leg of the Champions Chess Tour. He's so good at finding these small endgame advantages. Once the queens have gone off, grinding out these kind of small chances, setting traps for his opponent as well. Yeah, I think once both sides tick under 3-4 minutes, then we'll see Magnus make his move and try to trick Rojabov a bit later on.
It's a good strategy. You also have to remember that the players themselves cannot see the bar. They are only seeing the chess position. They don't know anything about the computer evaluation, because if they did, then they, you know, it would be like a form of cheating, to be honest. And yeah, so there he's unaware. Rojabov is completely unaware that whether his position is totally solid. He will just have to sense it or basically calculate it out. And yeah.
Yeah, my favourite scenario is when both players think they're winning because they can't see the bar. They both think they're winning. You see them both smiling, and then suddenly one of them, their face drops. And, I'd love to see something like that today.
I was actually part of I was watching this analysis where, OK, both players had never consulted with the computer, and there was exactly that scenario. One was like, no, I'm winning. The other was like, no, I'm winning. How could you say I've got an amazing position? And it was like two ships that were never, ever going to cross.
Well, actually, well, these two players, it looks like they're both losing, but I guess they're only really focusing on the board here right now because it looks very tense and interesting with the queens off the board. Still a lot of pieces in play here.
That's right. There's still a lot of life. So even if the computer were to say 0.0, there's still enough pieces to create chances for both sides. Yeah, I definitely think Rojabov, he knows he's the one defending. Magnus, he'll know he's in charge, but it's just about kind of finding those practical attempts, giving Rojabov the most opportunity to go wrong. So maybe he'll find a move that gives black 4 or 5 different options, but it's just harder to choose for black. With white, I think anything is roughly level, and therefore, OK, Magnus Carlsen, he just improves his king slightly. That's another good tip, you know, when in doubt in an endgame, once queens are off, just improve your king, bring it closer towards the centre.
Yeah.
We've seen both players do that now.
Yeah, you have this kind of like motto in the endgame that one of my old coaches told me. He used to say to me, hurry, but don't rush.
The perfect balance.
Yes. And OK, well, now we have some decisions going to be made because Rojabov has attacked the bishop and now Magnus has captured that extra pawn. So are we going to just see a whole series of trades and then...
Yeah, I think actually Rojabov, he has a bit of a key move right now. And he does find it. He moves his rook across one square. He's lined up his rook with the opponent's rook. So White's bishop there was stuck. If White's bishop had moved, White would lose that rook on the bottom of the board. Therefore, we will soon see some trades on that line. Black will soon trade the bishops off. Maybe the rooks will leave the board as well. Magnus Carlsen, though, he still does have a superior knight. So that's what gives him the small chances in this game.
And maybe even a superior king. The king will come out into the action. Oh, that's what I love about endgames, how the king, you know, who was hiding before, was just a feeble old man, that suddenly comes out with golden hair, you know, flipping it.
I always think that's the most tense part when you see, I would just hate being in that part of the game, actually taking the decision to move my king into the action. Oof.
Yeah, well, we're going to see it now because there's been this whole series of trades and now the king definitely has to get active.
That's right. So Black's king, at the moment, it looks nice and safely tucked away, but it is just doing a very passive job. White, his only plan, Magnus Carlsen, to try and win this game, I think, is to use his own king to enter the black position. It's very tense. Knight endgames, we say that they're very similar to pawn endgames. If you remove the knights from the board, if the pawn endgame should be a draw, then normally it's still a draw with the knights still on the board. And neither side has too many weaknesses here. Neither side has a pawn that can be easily targeted. So it's going to be extra hard for those knights to jump around. Black is the one, though, with the worst knight, so I would try to improve that sooner or later.
Yeah.
All right, well, we do see a lot of the games in this round as well, ending in draws. David Anton and Pentalari Krishna has played draw, so has Grisham and Aronian and Nakamura and Pomnyachi. So Wesley, the only one with a victory so far in this round. Anish Giri, the only one with a loss so far. And we know Magnus, he's played 2 draws. Timor Rojabov did get a win in the last round. So Magnus Carlsen, he wants to win now. He wants to get started. He said that before the show started. He said, I want to be in killer mode.
Yeah, he wants to, but I think Rojabov, he's going to try and shut down killer mode. And actually, he did find by far the best move there, actually, as Black. Black pushed a pawn forward. He's just trying to trade off as much as he can. He's trying to get his knight, that black knight, into the game. If White had captured that black pawn last move with his own pawn in the centre there, then the black knight would have jumped back out of the edge of the board, finally. I think that was a key move from Rojabov. Maybe Magnus Carlsen should have tried to stop that move a bit earlier on. And now we see Rojabov just pushing a pawn forward in the corner. He's going to try and push all of his pawns on the right side there. The more pawns that leave the board, the closer he gets to a draw. We should also mention that if all the pawns disappear and if one side loses the knight, if one side has a king and a knight versus a king, that is a draw. There's not enough material left to checkmate. So there's some room for maneuver here. For example, Rojabov could trade off some pawns and then sacrifice his knight for the remaining white pawns to make a draw. And there we see Magnus Carlsen pushing his king forward. I think Black will trade off a set of pawns now. And good thing for Rojabov is that he does have enough time here. It's not the type of position where you need 10 minutes to work everything out. 2 to 3 minutes should be enough to help him guide this game to safety.
Is there anything Magnus can do in this position to just tell us, I'm going for the win here?
I think he's definitely still going for the win. The only thing he can really hope for is that he can somehow paralyze that black knight. But once that black knight gets into the game, I think we will be calling it a day. And actually, we see Magnus, his facial expressions there, just looking away.
Yeah.
I think he's kind of accepted the fact that we're edging towards the draw.
Yeah. I just love Rojabov's expressions. You know, he really looks almost
fallen asleep.
yogi-like, you know.
Wow.
You know, it's just brilliant.
And he's sitting, I think maybe he's sitting in Moscow, or if he's sitting home in Baku in Azerbaijan. I mean, it's not early morning for him. It's closing into night for him. But he's just
You know, you just see him calmly. I think this is just a kind of thing. Don't get overexcited. It's not over until it's over. I remember once when I was playing Mr. David Howell, he was trying to beat me in any way possible, but he just wasn't. I was like, calm down, okay, calm down.
And I failed, right?
You did fail, yeah.
Because Jovanka went into Zen mode.
I was like, calm down. You know, he's just trying to bluff you. I think sometimes, you know, Magnus, we've kind of spoken about it. He has this kind of magical effect. You know, he's so good at the end games, and we all know he is the big boss. He is fantastic, and we do also know that he loves to carry on playing and torturing the opponent. You just have to kind of, no, I'm not going to fall for that. No, I'm not going to. Just going to keep it calm and not make any critical mistakes.
And I think Rojabov, he's not the kind of guy who will get flustered or who will panic for no reason. And I mean, he's kind of dressed like a Jedi Knight or something, or someone out of the Matrix. But I think that meditation that he took a moment ago, that will just give him, that'll give him the peace of mind to, well, to hold this draw. And his last move is a very nice one. He just pushes his pawn forward. Now White's king cannot move towards the right side. It cannot enter the position because Black's knight and Black's pawn combine to kind of create a fortress, just preventing any advance of the White king. I think sooner or later, it will be time for White to just exchange off another set of pawns. But then again, that will bring the game closer to a draw. Both sides a bit stuck here. There's just no way to improve the position for either side.
So Magnus Carlsen is thinking. We know that Magnus Carlsen loves to win. How about this move, David?
Yep, that shows that he is still trying to win. He's trying to, I mean, it's a bit of a long journey, but White will use his king to try and come around from the left side.
He's doing it, he's making its march. Perhaps it might be, would it be risky, actually, to get your king so far away from the right side of the board?
Yeah, I mean, Magnus, he's a brave man. He's going to spend the next 5 moves trying to improve his king, trying to enter the black half. That being said, that White king has abandoned its pawns right now. So Rojabov, he'll be looking for a way to try and maybe improve his knight, improve his king to get at those white pawns on the right side. There we see Rojabov, again, kind of meditating, but we could see him actually whispering to himself. He was working out, I was going to say, he was working out the consequences of this knight trade that he's just offered. So the knights are looking at each other right now. White could trade them. I think that position would still be a draw. But yeah, Rojabov just working out.
Yeah, OK, and they have been traded. I think we're going to see a bit of a standoff here where the kings will circle around some very important squares in the centre, but it won't actually occupy them because, OK, and there you can see it, the kings are just repeating.
And we do have a draw. Another draw for Magnus Carlsen in Game 3 against Timor Rojabov. OK. And they are sitting there, they are looking over this. Was there anywhere in the game where Magnus could have sort of done something differently to get the win here, David?
Yeah, I think this one was difficult right at the end. I think Rojabov just defended perfectly. It's sometimes hard to break down if your opponent does have this type of fortress where you can't break through. Maybe earlier on in the game, there was a lot of tension. Maybe he could have kept that tension a bit better, but if your opponent defends perfectly, sometimes a draw is a natural result in chess.
Sometimes the draw is a natural. So we have seen a lot of draws so far. Natural start to a tournament. Players not taking too many risks. It's not too much fun to be behind after day one. So we have seen some draws. We did see in the first game that we followed in this round, though, we did see a win. We followed the game between Anish Giri and Wesley So. Devastating loss for Anish Giri in that game, David. And maybe we could just swiftly go back to that position to actually see where Anish Giri played inaccurately to get that loss.
That's right. So a few moments, I think, in this game, a few critical moments. The first one came in this position. White has just retreated his knight back. It looks like a decent choice. Maybe that knight wants to spring forward towards the centre a bit later on. Wesley So, he cut that idea out. This rook is on a great open line right now. And this is where I think it started to go wrong for Anish Giri playing white. Anish pushed his pawn forward 1 square, but this pawn actually becomes a weakness later on. White's knight is just terrible now, tied down to this pawn. And this was the start of where things started to go wrong, began to go wrong for Anish. Wesley, he traded off the best defender of White's king. And a few moves later, after some trades, we did see it was time for Wesley So to push forward. He pushed forward, trying to open up the White king, and If we whiz ahead, we can see actually why White resigned in the final position. This knight, firstly, is so dominant, this octo knight, this powerful piece in the center. And after Black gave a check, attacking the White king, Anish, we were all surprised that he resigned immediately, but he would have to give up some, well, he'd just have to give up a piece here, I think. If the White knight captures this pawn, it is defended twice, so Black would win a piece. The knight for pawn is a decisive advantage, the knight worth 3, the pawn worth 1. Instead, if he retreats his king, then Black has a few choices. Sooner or later, he will jump forward with his knight, attacking the White king. This king is now in check. The king would have to sidestep to the corner, potentially, and now Black could just bring his queen forward, actually threatening checkmate. There's just no way to prevent this. White has to give up a knight for this pawn. He'll be down a piece, hopeless, and we mentioned it earlier, the queen and knight, perfect attacking combo. The Black queen, the Black knight, White's king is doomed, and a bit of a disaster for Nishikori, unfortunately.
Yeah, big disaster, actually. And we have a tweet from Sarah May Pimentel who says, and that's a win for Wesley. So looking for a back-to-back championship.
Yes. Winner of the Skilling Open and gotten off to a great start here, Wesley. So.
Absolutely. He's showing that he's man of the moment so far.
Yes. All right. Well, we do have another man of the moment right now. We are joined right now by Grandmaster Simon Williams, Ginger GM in London. Merry Christmas, Simon.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Great to be joining you again. You're feeling good and fresh?
We are feeling good and fresh after the holidays. David spending his holidays in Norway. He hasn't been able to have all the Christmas food that he's used to.
No, that's right. But I did get snow today, so I felt that was a nice Christmas treat.
So maybe you can tease him a little bit, David, with how the turkey tasted yesterday.
I saw the pictures of the snow, actually. It looked beautiful over in Norway, and it's quite funny to be back on Boxing Day looking at the action, and it's been another great day of chess so far, right?
Definitely, and I know you've noticed a few moves that you wanted to talk about, and Magnus Carlsen, he's not gotten off to the best start that he wanted to. A lot of draws here for Magnus. What do you think of his start of the tournament?
I think it's quite hard to play after Christmas Day, and I think it's probably affecting some people more than others. Maybe some people had a bit more turkey, maybe a couple of glasses of wine a bit more than others. But we could see this in the first round where Magnus was playing against Aronian, and I don't know if it's possible to look at the position on about move 43 here. And in this position you've got here, Aronian now moves his rook into the middle of the board, rook d4. And this position here, well, Magnus has an immediate win. This last move Aronian played was actually a blunder. And it's really a bit unforgivable for Magnus to miss the move f4. In the game, he took the rook off, but he could just move this pawn forwards, give a check. You should always look out for checks. And whatever Black plays next, let's say Black captures that pawn, well, the White rook can now swing over and go a rook up, and this would just be easily winning for Magnus. So the first game of the day, I think it's a bit of turkey blues going on there, and Magnus needs a little bit of warming up as it goes. So that was one very exciting moment. And
well, actually, Simon, what does it tell us when the world champion, who never misses these opportunities, misses this opportunity? Is he simply a little bit tired in the start here?
I think he might just be a little bit rusty. I mean, it's quite hard to get into the swing of things. Athletes talk about getting into the zone, and chess is a mental game after all, and you've got to get your mind focused. Even if you're 2% off your game, it's very unforgiving chess. You can't make mistakes. You've got to have the all-seeing eye, and you've got to spot these possibilities. And I think Magnus is just warming up at the moment. He's often a bit of a slow starter, but, you know, he's got to prove something soon.
All right, and there was another move by Magnus, wasn't it, that you noticed today?
Yes, there was one more moment, and well, I really like this next move. This is Magnus again with the white pieces, and a lot of players here would castle kingside because castling is supposed to be a good move, right? You control the center of the board at the start of the game, you get your knights and bishops out, and you tuck your king away where it's safe. Bodyguards in front of it, the free pawns. But Magnus, instead of playing this move, plays one of my favorite moves. And I love this move so much. It's Harry 4. Now, I love giving the pawns names, as you might know. And the H pawn is Dirty Harry, the H pawn. And here, Magnus pushes Harry all the way to h4. And this is a really aggressive move because he wants to push the neighboring pawn, the g pawn, up the board next move. And instead of defending, instead of going a little bit passive with castling, he's going for the attack. So it's not like he's playing passively. He is playing aggressively, but he's just missing a little bit of his normal flair at the moment, I feel.
Definitely. And Simon, we do love that you're giving name to the pieces. We're actually talking a lot in the studio about talking to the pieces, being like a football manager, talking to your players. Is it easier when you give your pieces names?
Well, it is. I think you should talk to your pawns, but make sure you don't do it when you're actually playing someone. I've seen that happen over the board. You're supposed to say, okay, right, knight, you're supposed to be thinking this. Where should you move yourself to get an attack? But you shouldn't actually do that. Okay, knight, where should you actually go? Because that's a little bit odd. So do talk to your pieces, but maybe keep it non-verbal when you're doing it. Make sure they're all working together and they're all playing the field in the battle at the same time.
Now, is this simply a tip for beginners, or are all of you, grandmasters, are all of you talking to your pieces like that in your head, obviously?
I think so. I think you've got to get... I mean, at the end of the day, chess is based on war, and they're all your troops. You're the commander. And if your troops aren't doing the right things, you've got to command them to go to the right squares. So if one of them's sleeping in the bed, you've got to say, get out of bed, get into the battle, go to the right place on the battlefield. So you kind of are talking to your pieces. They've got to have some harmony with them. Like you're in charge of, like, some, you know, you're creating a bit of a great piece of music, but with your army. So, yeah, I think so. I think you do have to talk to them.
Do you do that as well, Jovanka? Talk to your pieces and maybe, give them a hard time if you're not happy with them?
I do. In fact, I do this especially on online chess because, you know, anything goes there. So I talk to my pieces and I'm like, come on, get moving. I never do this over the board, I have to say. It would look weird, as Simon mentions, but online, yep, definitely.
Okay, so this is one of the new things that we're seeing with the online chess, more talking with the pieces.
Yeah, more talking to the pieces, more kind of self-critique. You need to motivate yourself, and if you feel a bit sluggish and not fully focused, maybe like Magnus feels right now, sometimes you just need that extra energy that you get from screaming a few things at yourself in the mirror.
All right. Well, so Simon, we are very excited for the last round of the game. Only 12 players since this is a major, so they're only playing 11 rounds, and that means that already now it's quite important to get in there for a Nishikori, for example, who's had a slow start to the tournament. Now, what's your expectations now for the last round of today?
Well, I think we've got to expect Magnus, first of all, because he's had 3 draws, to really come out punching in this next game. I mean, he's so dedicated, and he's going to want to show that he can win this one after coming second before. Anish is having a terrible start. This often happens. You've got to just try to rebalance yourself because it's very easy to get a little bit depressed with the way things are going, but you just got to pick yourself up and you've got to be like, right, okay, I'm gonna try again. I've got to try something a little bit different. I'm not out of the competition quite yet, and it's a test of character, if anything. It will show who deserves to be in the next round in this final round of the day.
All right, well, it is Boxing Day, isn't it, in England? What will the rest of the day look like for you, Simon?
Well, I think they've got to show some boxing skills on the board here, haven't they? They've really got to be a bit violent. I mean, chess is kind of a violent mental sport. People think that's quite a weird analogy, but at the end of the day, you've got to win the game, and you've got to do that by defeating your opponent. So it's a proper Boxing Day massacre maybe coming up in this last round.
What would you usually be doing, David, if you were home in Britain today on Boxing Day?
I'd be recovering from Christmas Day, probably. I'd be eating all the leftovers and trying to find more presents that I'd hidden around the house. Yeah, it's a big day, actually, in England. I think national holiday as well, and it's just great that everyone's spending it watching some chess with us.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It is the best day, the way to spend Boxing Day.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you get to enjoy all these great, ferocious chess players take themselves apart.
All right, Simon. Well, we wish you a great Boxing Day, and we're looking forward to see you again tomorrow.
Definitely. Have a good Boxing Day as well. I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Simon.
Cheers.
All right, Grandmaster Simon Williams. He is doing the Ginger GM stream on Twitch, so follow that as well. As we will be looking forward to the last round of today, round 4. But before we do that, let's talk to the players a little bit more. We asked them, what are they currently working on in chess? Take a look at this.
I'm trying to be well prepared in the opening, but also try to get in good shape.
I'm working a bit on my online playing skills as well, because with this mouse it's also different. Also gaming helps. I also have started to play this Counter-Strike.
I try to do some tactics on internet, some tactic friendship. I think it's important for these fast time controls, and also to get used to calculate on the screen.
I'm just playing mostly online chess, trying to get better and faster.
I did lots of puzzles. I think it's very helpful. Also for your confidence, you know, when you solve like 100 puzzles, you feel like, you know, you're smart. I think to feel good is just half the job done already.
All right, so the players are actually currently mostly working on online skills. That's fun to hear. David, what are you currently working on in chess? Is it like an opening or...?
Ooh, good question. I haven't done enough work lately. Actually, I did spend Christmas Eve studying Jovanka's favourite opening, the Ikaru defence. I've been trying to find a few new ideas there. I play it from both the white side and the black side. I did do a few puzzles as well on chess24.com. So, yeah, I think, as Anish mentioned, some puzzles. It's good for the ego. It also keeps the mind fresh.
Yeah.
It's always a good plan.
I'm a big fan of puzzles. Absolutely. I love solving them. And I also go on to chess24 and I try to race against the clock and just get as many points as possible. The one thing that's very addictive is, though, to play chess. Just to actually get out there, just go online and play chess. And one of the most addictive things you could possibly do is to crank up the time to 1 minute to kind of increase the pressure. And you're just there trying to make as many moves as possible and pre-moves. And yeah, if you like your adrenaline, this is very good. But it can be a bit hair-raising at times.
So is that what you're doing, actually more and more, playing online and playing faster time controls all the time?
Yes. Yes, it's, you know, what can I say? I'm an adrenaline junkie. I love playing it, and you're just getting the pre-move. And the thing is, when you have seconds left on the clock, the chess becomes very random, and it's all about setting tricks and traps. And when your opponent falls into them, you kind of get this pure sense of elation. And yeah.
All right. Well, the players in their Airthings Masters need to get their adrenaline pumping before the last round of day one. We have finished round 3. Let's take a look at the results. It was very interesting, actually. A lot of draws also in this round. Daniel Duba, Maxim Vachier-Legrave, that was a draw. So was David Anton versus Pentla Hari Krishna. Magnus Carlsen and Timor Rojabov, that was also a draw. And Alexander Grisham versus Levon Aronian, a draw. Ikaru Nakamura versus Yana Pomnyachi, a draw. The only game that ended with a win was the game between Wesley So and Anish Giri. Wesley So, the winner of the first tournament in the Champions Chess Tour, was able to win that game against a very strong player. So, the standings, very interesting. We have 4 players on 2 points after those 3 rounds. That is Ikaru Nakamura, Timor Rojabov, Levon Aronian, and Wesley So. So definitely 4 of the very strongest players, 4 of the favorites, just getting off to a great start here.
Yeah, that's right, and they're quite likely to be able to push on in the next few rounds. That means there won't be that many qualifying spaces left for the rest of the field. I think we're going to see, as the rounds tick on, especially now that they're all a bit tired, we're going to see a lot of players start making their move.
All right, clock is ticking towards the last round of day 1 in the Airthings Masters. And we have been looking at the clock for each player because we know this online format. Players are sitting in their homes playing. And, well, Ikaru Nakamura must be feeling a little bit better now, because sitting in California, it's finally not early morning for him longer, Jovanka.
Yeah, it's still early morning for a chess player.
Yeah.
You mustn't forget that it's just
closing into 9 a.m.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is not good news for a chess player. No player likes to get up early in the morning.
We're all night owls, right?
Well, not all of us, but no one is 6 a.m. ready with a mouse.
But it is interesting. So we know Ikaru Nakamura in this last round. It is 9 a.m. in the morning for him. He's going to play Levon Aronian. It's 9 p.m. for Levon Aronian. 12 hours different there. Do you think that is actually something that we can see when they play, David, in any way?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. We'll see by the the level of moves, the intensity of the moves, who's feeling more awake. Maybe it'll be fascinating to see the air quality in their rooms as well. I mean, Will it be better in the morning? Will it be better in the evening after a long game of, after a long 4 hours of playing chess? Yeah, so many factors here will kind of decide those small margins.
All right. Well, let's take a look at the games that we will have in the very last round of the first day of the Airthings Masters. We do have some very interesting games coming up. The first one is between Maxime Vachier-Lagrave and Yana Pomnyachi, the French versus the Russian. And Yana Pomnyachi had a horrible start. Jovanka, does he really need to fight back now?
He does absolutely need to fight back, especially because this is the last game of the day and no one wants to end the day on a loss. So he absolutely needs to do something. Do anything, draw, win, that's fine, just no losing.
And then we have the American Wesley Levon Aronian first against an American, Ikaru Nakamura. Both players got off to a very good start. Who is the favorite, David? Is it always Ikaru Nakamura when we're talking online chess?
Usually, but Aronian, he's been so impressive today, and he does have the white pieces. Traditionally, he's very good with white. Nakamura, maybe a bit more passive as black. He's very ambitious when he has white, but yeah, this time it's so hard to call. I'd slightly favour Aronian, maybe.
Yeah, he seems so confident. All right, let's take a look at the other games. It's going to be Wesley So. He's facing Alexander Grisham, and I just can't believe how confident Wesley So seems today.
Yeah, he's fantastic to see. You know, he really played a fantastic game against Anish Giri. Made it look super easy. I think he has to be the slight favourite because of that. Also, he was so impressive in the Skilling Open. But of course, underestimate Alexander Grisham at your peril. You know, 3-time World Blitz champion. Yeah, great player there.
And then another player on top of the table is Timor Rojabov, and he's going to be playing the player in the bottom of the table, Anish Giri. What do you expect from Anish in this final game of today, David?
I think just anything but a loss. I think he would take a draw right now because you don't want to end a day with 3 losses in a row. I mean, you just never want 3 losses in a row. We sometimes call that castling queenside because when we write down the moves, it means 3 zeros in a row. And I think that's the thing to avoid. He just needs to be solid and not gamble too much.
And then we have world champion Magnus Carlsen, who's been playing 3 draws. He wants a win against Pentala Hare Krishna. Maybe one of the players that he will be able to get a win in this tournament. We're going to follow that closely. And then also in the last game, Daniil Dubo, he's going to play David Anton. The 2 very young guys going to face each other here. But the game that we will focus on is this game. Levon Aronian, who's had such a good start to the tournament, versus Ikaru Nakamura, also a great start to the tournament.
Yes, and Hikaru playing from different location. You can see we've got a screen there. So we heard rumours, didn't we, David?
That's right. I do have some insider info from one of Hikaru Nakamura's, one of his kind of management team, and they said that actually the facility he normally plays from, like his office, it had to be evacuated. There was a COVID outbreak, so he had to go home. He had to set up everything a bit last minute, just in the last day or 2. So new location for him. Will he be in his comfort zone? Will that affect him?
Well, we'll find out. And the moves are coming fast and furiously.
That's right. So white opened with the pawn in front of his king. Levon Aronian, he can kind of serve with both hands, as we say. It's a bit like tennis. Sometimes you serve towards the left, the right. He can open the game in any way. And we do see that Hikaru Nakamura replied also with his king's pawn. And a few moves later, we see an opening that we call the Spanish, sometimes called the Roy Lopez opening as well. Both players are going to be very solid. And there we see white take some space in the centre. White tries to occupy that midfield, the centre of the board, with some pawns. Nakamura jumped forward with one of his own pawns, kicking the white bishop back. And now we see a trade in the centre, and Nakamura does fight for that space. We mentioned it earlier. You need to control the centre. If you control the centre, you can decide later on whether to attack on the flanks, through the middle. It just gives you much more flexibility with your plans. So Nakamura now pushing a pawn in front of his queen, asking Levon Aronian the question, do you capture me? Do you push forward? Do you castle your king? Aronian has so many things to do, but it does look like maybe Nakamura is the better prepared player. He's a minute up on the clock already.
And in fact, they are actually repeating a game that Hikaru has played before, this time against Shirov. In fact, it was played literally in December 15th, so not that long ago, 10 days ago.
Okay, this is Yeah, this is something I haven't seen Nakamura do before, actually. So it's just a recent idea. It must have been what he's been studying over the Christmas break.
Yeah. And just look at him. He looks super confident. He knows that he's looked at this before, he's studied it. And Levon perhaps not looking as though he has. So pawn takes pawn.
That's right. So we see a trade. Well, it will be a trade of pawns in the centre. White did capture a pawn. And rather than recapture that pawn immediately, Nakamura dropped back with his knight. We will see a flurry of moves. We'll recap the position in a moment with the board. The priority, I think, for Nakamura was to get his knights out. He wants to bring his king to safety. He wants to castle that king over to the right there. That being said, Nakamura, he's looking up. Normally, yeah, he looks a bit confused. Normally, I've noticed with Nakamura, when he looks towards the left, when he looks up in the sky, it means he's trying to remember something. If he looks towards the right, it means he's a bit surprised. He's just trying to work things out. And there we see, you know, when in doubt, if you're surprised, just get your king to safety.
Yes.
And Nakamura gets his king nicely behind a wall of pawns.
And in fact, this whole setup is something that Hikaru has not seen before. So that would be why he's looking in that direction. Because, yeah, they've departed from that game and now he's either on his own or he's trying to record the analysis.
That's right. So Levon Aronian, he's having a bit of a think here. I expect to see him bring his king to safety as well. So a bit of a copycat move here from Levon. But maybe if we bring up the board while Aronian thinks, we can see the last few moves have come thick and fast. White played this move, which is maybe a bit surprising to Nakamura. He brought his bishop out, eyeing up this queen indirectly behind the black knights. So one of those knights might be able to move, but both of them, or at least one of them, will be stuck temporarily. Nakamura was surprised, and therefore he decided, OK, it's time to get the king to safety. And it looks like Aronian has copied that. At the moment, White is a pawn ahead. This pawn is, however, very weak. We call these doubled pawns. They're on the same line, and they're both isolated. They have no other pawns to protect them. So the front pawn is very weak. It will drop off sooner or later. It might become a battle. OK, actually, Nakamura captured it sooner rather than later. It will become a battle over these central squares now. White has this pawn on its own. It might be a strength. It controls some nice squares, but it might also become a weakness later in the game. Very tense battle ahead.
Definitely tense. And, well, guys, I have to say, we have two lovely, lovely tweets. We have a tweet from Sean Hagen who says, #ChessChamps, teamwork is dreamwork indeed. I really enjoy listening to you guys. You have great chemistry working together. So thank you, Sean. And we also have a lovely tweet from Juan Trujillo. He says, I started playing chess again after many years, the Queen's Gambit effect, and discovered that great tournaments are now streamed with awesome commentators. So, yeah, thank you so much to Juan as well. And brilliant stuff. Keep your tweets coming. We will feature them on the show. And you can do this by tweeting us using the #ChessChamps.
And we do also have that quiz going on.
We do also have a quiz. Who is the current Fischer World Champion?
Yes, Fischer Random.
Fischer Random, yes.
The winner will walk away with a 1-year subscription for Chess24 Premium. So just tweet your answer to #ChessChamps. And, I mean, this is the last round, so we're very soon going to pick a winner.
We are, definitely. Again, it can be 1 year's premium subscription to Chess24. That's a great prize.
That is a great prize. All right, well, it is Levon Aronian thinking. I've been noticing, we've been following a few of Levon's games, and it seems it's been playing very fast most of the time.
Yeah, that's right. I think just the first game against Magnus, occasionally he spent a few minutes here and there, but in general, it was much faster than we've seen from him traditionally. He is quite an instinctive player. He trusts his attacking instincts, and he's very, very confident. I've noticed from playing against him, from analysing with him, he always thinks he's doing well, which I think is a great trait to have in a strong player. You always have to believe in your position. You can't get too depressed if your position has some weaknesses, and if you're on the defending side. He's always very confident. Yeah, so, and that last move as well, I think he's been surprised, but he's still playing relatively quickly. That last move has surprised Nakamura, who's now got his head in his hands.
Do you think this is the PhD in drama, as one of the participants said? I just love it. So expressive and brilliant stuff. Just look at him. He's like, what am I going to do there? But yeah, I have to say I'm learning something new every day. And actually someone who Tabitha has left us a very nice tweet. She said she's also learning something new every tournament. And we have a hashtag Octonite, hashtag Mean Girls, thanks to Kaya. Hashtag Is Your Rook Happy, David? And hashtag Chess Champs.
That means Tabitha was watching the last tournament as well, Skilling Open. We talked a lot about those mean girls.
And we also have a very intriguing tweet from Davies Nujugana, who says, I think Magnus is off today because he is following fantasy football. You can see him looking left occasionally, distrusting him.
Is that what he's looking at? Yes, because we've been seeing that all day. He's looking all the time. I thought maybe he was looking at the sun or the great view from wherever in the world he is. But maybe.
Yes, perhaps.
Maybe it's football.
He does love his football. I was once at a tournament with him, and it was the closing ceremony, and all the prizes were being given out. And I think he'd won the tournament, but he was a bit late to collect his prize because he was busy watching football in the corner.
Exactly.
So the last couple of moves, we see Nakamura still making a few faces here and there. If we bring up the board, we can see that his last move, a very natural developing move, he's just improved this bishop. We talked about bishops being on these very nice long diagonals. This bishop will, long-term, control some very important squares. Aronian, he decided to snap off a pawn here, and this looks like it might win a pawn for white. This pawn is protected by the knight, so if we see a trade, then white has actually won a pawn. White has a 2-for-1 advantage on this left side now. But I think more likely than not, we will see a trade of knights first. So black will remove the defender of this pawn, and after this knight is recaptured, black will just capture this pawn back. We're seeing a very level position, both sides, equal pawns, equal pieces, everything very balanced. I think both sides have reason to be happy there.
All right. Well, interesting game. Can we say at this point that the players look like they're fighting for a win here, or if they're playing safe?
It's tricky to say. I think both players, they wouldn't be disappointed too much with the draw, but I think they will be waiting for their chances. They'll be trying to set some small traps here and there, slowly outmaneuver each other, but a lot of life left in this position for sure.
Yeah,
lots of pieces left.
I agree. I mean, if you look at the dynamic potential and all the pieces, you can see that both sides have got really good pieces. The position, there's like hardly any pawns on the board, so therefore it's open. And when it's open, basically anything can happen. It's all about playing your pieces to the best moves and having the best plan. And there is always danger that the vacuum cleaner can come on and, you know, all the pieces get vacuumed up. But, you know, there's still a long way from that stage yet.
Yeah, as long as there's a few pieces on the board, there's always life.
Exactly.
And, these two players, they do like to try and fight. They both want to win every single game. They're not really inclined towards those duller drawish positions that we've seen a bit today. So we did see that trade that I predicted, and now Levon Aronian, he just shuffles his rook across one square. He's attacking an undefended black pawn with that white rook now. Nakamura, he's got many options. Maybe he'll just try and defend that pawn. He could defend that pawn with his queen. Instead, he decides to counterattack. Black's using his own rook to eye up one of white's pawns. There. So very interesting move. That decision was made super quickly by Nakamura. Mm-hmm. I think I would have spent a much longer amount of time deciding whether to defend the black pawn, whether to counterattack. But Nakamura as well, it shows that he's confident. He's been very impressive, also in the last tournament of the Champions Chess Tour, but also so far today. And that shows in the speed of his moves. I quite like that decision by black, attacking that undefended white pawn now with his black rook.
Yeah, definitely bold. You know, it's all about the momentum in these types of positions where there aren't too many pawns. And Hikaru is kind of saying, I'm not letting go. And this is like such a talent, actually, because you do have to adjust in chess. Like when the position is a little bit closed, there's lots of pawns on the board, you have to get used to kind of maybe the idea of repositioning your pieces. And here it's all about putting your pieces on the most active posts. And yeah, definitely, I'm liking it as well. And I do have to say, we do have the most cutest tweet. We have a tweet from Craig Mack, and he says, I'm 9 and loving watching this tournament with my dad.
Wow.
Thank you, Craig.
Fantastic.
It is, yes.
9 years old. That was about when Magnus Carlsen, for example, started to get quite good, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. And maybe Craig, in a few years, he'll be competing in these online tournaments if he sticks with the chess. Maybe he'll be the next world champion. Let's remember the name.
Yeah, let's definitely remember the name. And actually, one of our players didn't actually get really good at chess until they reached about 13 or 14.
Oh.
And that's David Anton.
Is that so?
Yes, because you kind of assume that, OK, they're all prodigies by the time they were 5 or something. No. They definitely have a chance to improve at any age.
Hard work pays off in your teenage years as well. That's good. All right, what's happening here?
Definitely. And
Queen is moving.
That's right. Black's queen, well, it's normally not recommended to put the queen in the corner. The queen loves to be controlling lots of squares from the centre of the board. But here, if we bring up the analysis board, we can see that the black queen actually has a lot of potential. So we left the position here. White had a choice. White decided to try and trade these rooks. There was actually a small trap that Aronian avoided. If he'd got greedy, if he'd captured this pawn, it's not defended right now, and White's attacking this bishop. But this would have been a big blunder. It would have been a big mistake. Suddenly, White's rooks are lined up on this same diagonal, and Black's bishop would attack the first rook. If that rook moves, he'll capture the other one. We call this a skewer, the bishop's kind of X-ray vision attacking those two rooks. Instead, White offered a trade of rooks, and Black played this very nice move. This queen lined up with its bishop along this diagonal, but also protecting its rook down this line. Very nice kind of multi-purpose move there by Nakamura. But Aronian, again, playing so quickly, I'm slightly surprised by the speed of his moves. He just ignored that. He just said, OK, I'm bringing my rook to the centre of the board. Rooks love these open lines. We've seen it many times before. Very sensible play by both sides.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm just really liking what Hikaru is doing. He's put his queen on the edge of the board. It looks like a strange square, but when you look deeper, it's supporting the bishop, and then look on that lined up on that beautiful diagonal. And it's just like trying to play his pieces on all sides of the board. It's not just the right side, the left side, you know, it's everything. I love it.
Yeah, queens, they're so agile. They can cover the whole board in one move, pretty much. So having that queen in the corner right now, it might look counterintuitive. It's something that we might not be looking for immediately, but yeah, very nice move by Nakamura there. And I think he'll be deciding between trading those rooks off now. Maybe Black wants to get his other rook into the game sooner or later. Yeah, I think personally, I slightly prefer Nakamura's position as Black, just because that queen in the corner and that bishop.
It's just like the dream team, isn't it? And they're just like bearing down. It's like lasers bearing down at the white king. It's very unpleasant. I agree with you. I prefer Hikaru's position. It's like been an opening success. But having said that, Levon has been playing very fast and very confidently. So you do have to wonder a little bit.
Yeah, and actually, OK, Nakamura's just jumped forward as his bishop, attacking the white rook. White can trade rooks now, or he can jump up with the white rook and capture an undefended pawn there, but that will just be a pawn trade. Actually, meanwhile, though, my eyes have been drawn to the bottom of the screen there. We have seen a result already between Harikrishna and Carlsen. So Harikrishna, one of the lowest seeds, one of the underdogs, a newcomer to the event. Quick draw against the world champion.
Yes.
So 4 draws for Magnus Carlsen in the first day of the Airthings Masters after saying, I want to get off to a killer start in the tournament. Well, he'll have to do that tomorrow then.
He certainly will have to do that tomorrow, right? Yeah, sometimes your words can come back to haunt you a little bit, but I don't think Magnus Carlsen will be too phased.
No. And I mean, so he is on 2 out of 4 points right now, 4 draws. Decent start, just not the start he wants, because he wants to win games, as everyone does.
Yeah, and that just shows how strong everyone is in this tournament, how good they are. Even one of the lower seeds can easily hold Magnus Carlsen to a draw. Yeah, meanwhile, though, in the current game between Aronian and Nakamura, we have seen a trade of rooks. So Black's queen, we loved it in the corner there, but it's now in the enemy half of the board. It's in White's half. It was eyeing up an undefended white pawn, so White just moves his queen forward, just one square, defending all of its pawns. Yeah, I think it's time for Nakamura to try and get that rook, that black rook, into the game.
What about, because we saw it a lot in the Queen's Gambit, the Netflix series, that Beth Harmon really didn't like double pawns. And now there is the opportunity for Black to trade the bishop for the knight and do what Beth really disliked, you know, have double pawns.
That's right, actually.
What about that?
That's a very, I mean, it's a crucial moment actually now. And that's a very kind of poignant point, Jovanka. If we bring up the board, we can see that there's a crucial moment about to arise, potentially. Black does have the option to capture this knight with his bishop. This bishop looks really good in the centre, but you do give your opponent these doubled pawns. These pawns are actually very weak now. This pawn is now isolated. White's king is very open, and Nakamura, he has gone for this.
He has done it. So, OK,
and he's created an octo knight, Jovanka. He's put a knight in the middle of the board, attacking the pawn.
Beautiful stuff, yes.
But the bar isn't loving it. OK, well, I did go back.
Yeah, well, so, yes, that's the thing. Sometimes this is like the bar doesn't approve of our choices, but it's just irresistible because...
Look at Ikaru here now.
But both players, you know, one is leaning forward, the other one is leaning back, and they're both kind of shrugging their shoulders and doing some sort of stretches. Oh,
what was that?
It looked like Ikaru was just swatting away a fly, maybe.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe if we could see the humidity levels or the heat, the temperature, maybe it's just very warm. I think is he in California?
Yeah, he's in California.
He's in California right now, so probably very warm where he is. Meanwhile, another thing that surprises me, actually shocks me even, is the speed with which Levon is taking these huge decisions. He accepted these doubled pawns, so White's king is never going to be safe now. Oh, actually, Levon shaking his head. I was going to say, yes, White's king, very weak potentially. White's pawns, also very weak. But he's still playing almost instantly. He's still got 9 minutes after 22 moves. Usually we'd see those big decisions, players taking 4, 5, 6 minutes on each one.
Right.
He's taken only 6 minutes in total for so many key decisions already.
Exactly, and now there is the big decision, like, can Hikaru just get greedy and grab a pawn? Because I would be certainly out there, and he's done it. He has grabbed the pawn, and now it's up to Levon to actually prove what he has in mind, because I don't see it, to be honest.
Yeah, that's right. It's not obvious at all why White sacrificed that pawn. OK, Nakamura leaned back. I think he might have missed that move. White's bishop jumps forward to attack that black knight in the middle of the board. That black knight was so dominant, so strong. White's trying to get rid of it. So White temporarily is down a pawn. He's sacrificed a pawn. But if the queens come off, if White can get rid of that knight in the middle of the board, White will likely win his pawn back. We also note that the queens, they're staring at each other right now, but White's queen is actually protected by that dark squared bishop. So that dark squared bishop will just jump back and capture if the queens if Black decides to trade the queens off. I think this is a critical moment. If Nakamura can find a way to keep the game going, then of course he'll try, but it does look like we might see a few trades. Well, more than a few, I think, after that last move. Just protecting that knight, we will see...
yeah, we're going to see it here. You know, there's going to be quite a few trades. And, oh dear,
the vacuum
cleaner's out. And we're headed into the realms of a draw.
All right.
But we do have a tweet from Leandro Campello who says, it's very interesting watching the best of the world in chess playing in different places of the earth. You know, that's one of the fantastic things about online chess. OK, you can see the players all bashing out their moves. And here they're masters of finding the repetition. They found it in the most unusual way.
And there we are.
Yeah.
It is a draw for these two players who've been playing very good all day. Levon Aronyan's been looking like he's so confident. And Ikaru Nakamura, as we know, he's always one to count in when we do the online chess.
Yeah, that's right. And, I mean, just Aronyan's kind of calmness there was very impressive. He just traded everything off. He knew he was fully in control. Those doubled pawns at the end don't make a difference because neither side has enough material left to checkmate the other. The rooks balance each other out, the pawns balance each other out, and I was very worried for White. I would have panicked myself, but Aronyan, so quick, so calm, just completely neutralised Nakamura.
Right. I'm absolutely surprised by that, actually, how quickly he played and, you know, took all those decisions almost instantly. Because that's one of the things we're taught as a child, you know, do not take quick decisions like that. You're bound to miss something. It's going to be superficial. Take your time.
Sit on your hands.
Sit on your hands, yes. But, OK, it worked for him. It just shows he's on form.
That's right, it shows he's on form, and it also shows that both players, I think they're pretty happy with how the first day's gone. They've both managed to get a win under their belts. They know they only need to get in the top 8 out of 12 players to make it through to the quarterfinals, to make it through to the knockout stages. And I think maybe both players are a bit tired. They just wanted to rush through this one and move on to tomorrow.
And 2.5 points for both players. That is a good start to the tournament. And we know with only 12 players, they only have 11 games now to qualify for the quarterfinals, Jovanka.
Right, they only have 8 games left, and yeah, absolutely, they just have to be calm, not do anything drastic, because it's only the bottom 4 that get knocked out. Top 8 go through to the quarterfinals, and that's where it matters.
All right. Well, they should be feeling confidence after this this first day, and for we did see the clocks actually for Ikaru Nakamura. It's still quite early in the morning actually, and he finished day 1. So what will the rest of the day look like for him? Will he simply start preparing for tomorrow?
Yeah, I think Nakamura, he just loves chess that much. He will be studying for sure, but I think he's earned himself a nap as well. If it were me waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning to play against some of the best players in the world, I just want to make sure that I recovered afterwards. So yeah, maybe a nap, maybe some chess prep. Who knows with Nakamura?
Yeah, exactly. Who knows with Nakamura? We're looking forward to see both of these players again tomorrow. We are trying to get a hold of Levon Aronian. It would be so nice to hear from him. I'm just curious about how he's feeling today, because he seems... well, actually, I think we are joined by Levon Aronian. Hi, Levon.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, guys.
We've been so entertained with your play today, Levon. You seem so calm and confident. Can you tell us how you've been feeling today?
I think the first game didn't go so well. I was in a bit of a trouble against Magnus. But after I survived that, then I got enough confidence. So I managed to recuperate.
And what have you been most happy about today? Is that win, obviously, against Anish Giri? That seemed very dominant, your play there.
Yeah, I played with Anish many times. He's a great theoretician. And when you play against a great theoretician, you need to surprise them early on. And I think I managed to surprise him with this rare line. And later on, of course, both of us could improve on our play, but generally I had much more time, so I had enough time to think and to come up with the right moves. And so, yeah, I'm very happy with that game.
So, Levon, you mentioned this first round game with Magnus being quite difficult. There was a key moment that we noticed. We saw your...
I saw it for immediately. I played it.
You saw it immediately?
Yeah.
Wow, what did you think then when Magnus didn't? He missed it.
I thought that I was lucky in this game and I will probably survive.
Do you think that luck is a sign that this tournament is an auspicious one for you?
Well, you know, it's Christmas. We have to have the Christmas cheer and love for each other.
And is this the first time that you've been playing chess over Christmas?
No, we usually play the World Blitz and Rapid Championship on the same dates.
So how are you spending Christmas, Levon? Obviously playing chess now, but have you had a few days to relax?
Yeah, well, I'm doing my favorite things, playing chess. I played yesterday, the day before, so it's a wonderful Christmas.
Fantastic. And what will tomorrow be like? You know, after the first day, you are currently on top of the table with Hikaru.
Well, it was a tough pairing today, and I think I managed to stay solid. So I'll try to play better tomorrow and try to be more solid than ever.
And how do you prepare in the mornings before the games begin?
Well, I went for a run today. So it's about -5, so it's a refreshing activity. But I do it in the mountains. It's full of snow. It's very romantic. So I love it.
And Levon, in the Skilling Open, the last Champions Chess Tour tournament, we did see your biggest cheerleader, your biggest fan, Pomnyachi.
Yes.
Do you have him here with you today, cheering you on?
Of course, he's here.
Our favorite dog.
It is.
Oh, exciting.
You're a star. You're a star. You're a star. You're a star.
Is that comforting, Levon, to have him with you when you're playing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. He loves watching, and he's always there. When I play badly, to cheer me up.
So he would have been proud of you today.
For my game against Anish, definitely.
Yes.
It was a punchy-like attack.
Fantastic. Okay, Levon, we're seeing...
Just to get a treat, you know, type of attack.
Of course. Levon, we hope you have a great evening with Ponchuk, is that it?
Yes, Ponchuk, yeah.
Ponchuk. Thank you for joining us and good luck tomorrow.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That really is a very cute dog.
He is cute, yes, absolutely. I'm impressed by his fitness regime as well. Running in the mountains. I do recall, actually, when I was playing in a tournament that we actually saw him hiking up a mountain, and we kind of kept pace for maybe literally a minute, and then he was up there. So very fit.
That's it. Everyone's so good nowadays that it's tiny margins. It's this extra 1% of energy that might give you victory. So these top players, especially for Levon, maybe he's one of the older players in the group. Yeah, I mean, the fitness regime is incredible. That's why they're at the top of the world. They're very, very professional.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the final round of day one of the Airthings Master is still going on, and we are now jumping into the game between Daniil Dubov and David Anton. And I'm just noticing the bar. Is Daniil Dubov winning this game?
Ooh, this one is very tense. So the first thing I notice is that Daniil Dubov is actually down a piece. Black has an extra knight. That being said, White's position looks beautiful. The queen is dominant in the center of the board. White's pawns there. White's very far advanced pawns. You can see the black queen, it's very passive, just blocking one of White's pawns. Black's king is also potentially weak. This is, in my eyes, classic Dubov. He loves to sacrifice. He loves to give up pieces, knights, bishops, queens. He doesn't care. He just wants to give them all up. But somehow he always manages to create this kind of initiative, this momentum. All of his pieces are always perfectly placed, and the enemy king is always weak. David Anton shaking his head there, just pushing a pawn forward, maybe stopping the white queen from swinging across and giving check to the black king. It's very difficult for black.
It is absolutely difficult, because also one of the things, when you are material down, but you know, you're fighting hard for an attack, you do have to remember, can the defender bring in that extra piece to defend? And in this case, no, the attack is happening on the right side of the board. That's where the king is. On the left side, that is where the extra pieces are. They're doing nothing. So I mean, I really love Dubov's position. But of course, there is always the issue that at the back of your mind, you are thinking, you're a piece down, you have to do something. And yeah, most players actually can't relax when they're a piece down. They can't get used to the fact that they could potentially lose in the long run. And there you go. Dubov is not one of them, because he just retreated his queen and is now attacking that pawn that is all alone on the right side of the board.
Yeah,
it's coming in. The queen is coming in.
That's right. And actually, you guys were asking how I spent my Christmas. Just a few days ago, I mean, it was such an honour, but I was able to watch Dubov and Daniil Dubov on Chess24 on the YouTube, the Twitch channels. He was explaining this game I mentioned earlier, the game of the year, where he defeated Sergei Karyakin with a series of sacrifices. He sacrificed pawns, he sacrificed his queen, he sacrificed everything in that game pretty much. And he was explaining his thought process, and he just mentioned he loves being material behind because it gives him nothing to lose. If your piece is down already, then you can just kind of, with a clear conscience, you can just attack and go for the opponent's king. So, yeah, that's what he's going to do here, I think, very, very shortly. Black's queen now is forced to zoom across and protect its king, protect that black pawn on the right side. I think it's time for White to just talk to his pieces. Daniil Dubov, internally, he was talking to his pieces there. He was asking which piece needs to be improved, and he decided it was that rook. That rook wants to zoom up the board, all the way up there to the same line as the queen. It would be protected by a pawn. It would also attack the queen and the bishop. Therefore, David Anton, he tries to prevent that. He's offering a trade of rooks.
Yes. But now the position is starting to leak a little bit for David Anton, because you can see pawns are going to perhaps start dropping, and I'm slightly worried because White has this amazing pawn that is right in the heart of the black position, and it's 2 squares away from being promoted into something like a queen. So I am super, super worried. Okay, and now Dubov is maintaining the tension. You know, this is such a sign of class, you know, because maybe I would have been thinking about trading rooks and grabbing the material. Dubov is just like, nope, I'm just going to play with my extra material, just keep my material on the board and just keep the pressure on the board.
That's right. When you're attacking, especially when your piece is down, you need to keep fuel. You need to keep potential attackers on the board. And White's rook, again, Dubov talking to his pieces. White's rooks weren't connected. That rook that was on the left side, I mean, it's still on the left side. It was doing nothing up there. So he's just retreating it, connecting his rooks, saying to black, you can trade, but then I'll have another rook to join the attack a bit later on. And David Anton just bringing his queen forward 1 square.
But doesn't this allow
Doesn't
this allow me to, well, White to push, however I want to play this move, push the pawn. I love pushing pawns. And now it's going to get 1 step closer away from being a queen. And
that's right. So White could, that pawn up there in the middle of the board, it could push it 1 square further to its goal of getting to the end, of making a new queen. It would attack the 2 black rooks. So black looks like he would lose a rook, but he can use his one of his rooks to come down and trade. And that would give check to White's king. So we'd see a trade of rooks, and then black would just keep his other remaining rooks safe. I think that is one potential option. Dubov, knowing him though, he's not in a rush to deliver the killing blow. I think he can even just slowly improve his pieces here.
All right, and as he is slowly improving, we are joined now by Anish Giri, who finished his last game of today. Hi, Anish.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, we're good. How are you feeling?
Good. I just saw my flower vase pop up there. You see that as well? That's just me.
Actually, very
Isn't
nice.
it beautiful? No, it's some magic. You're getting a magic show here.
Very nice. And Merry Christmas.
Yes, thank you. Likewise. Congratulations, or well, happy holidays to everybody.
Happy holidays. How have you been feeling today, Anish?
I've been feeling okay, but I haven't had very good score so far, so I have to work on that. That's for sure.
We followed closely the game with you and Levon Aronian, and we were very shocked when we came into the position, and especially with the clock. He was still up on 15 minutes when you were down to 1 minute. Can you take us sort of through what happened with you and with your energy level maybe in that game?
Few things didn't go as planned in the opening, and it just I don't know, I was just doubting too much. It was too interesting, the position, so I was thinking about all kinds of options, and at the end of the day I couldn't make a choice. You know, when you play rapid chess, you got to be more practical. You got to make these calls. You just got to take the decision, one or the other, but do it faster. So it was a little rusty there at the start.
And then the rest of your games, they ended in well, you had two losses.
Not well. No, yes, I lost one more, and today is really not a good score for me so far.
Yeah.
So nothing to be proud of, but there are quite a few rounds left, so there's always hope. Definitely always hope.
And so are you saying you're feeling hope, but are you also feeling the stress? Because when it is a major, we know that it only is 11 rounds of the preliminaries. Are you feeling some sort of stress, or are you confident that you can make a comeback here?
Stress because of chess? I mean, really? No. Why would I be stressed? My air quality is excellent. Life's good. I'm not stressed at all. It's not about stress. It's more that you play so many good opponents. Oh, some excitement there, by the way, happening. But you play so many good opponents, and sometimes you're gonna win, sometimes you're gonna lose. The stuff. That's life.
We actually, you didn't mention the air quality, Anish. We have partnered up with Airthings to follow the air quality. Did you actually follow your own air quality today?
Well, the thing is, I cannot do that in between my games because, I figured out this room is pretty simple. If I don't open the window for a while, the air quality drops because there's too much CO2. So there are two solutions. One is I stop breathing, which isn't very good. The other is that I open the window again, but if I do it again, I'll freeze. So at some point, I just made a choice to go on with the bad air, but at least not freeze and keep breathing. But it doesn't really work out well, so maybe I should change my strategy.
Yeah, because you see, actually, your CO2 level is very red. It's not good at all.
No, but that's, I mean, you know, I can stop breathing, but then my other levels are gonna go down. So it's not so simple.
Well, maybe you can blame your 2 losses on the CO2 level today then.
That was the plan. That was the plan. Hopefully tomorrow I'll prove that it's not just about the air quality, but also about the quality of your moves.
All right, Anish, thank you so much for joining us and good luck tomorrow. Looking forward to seeing your comeback tomorrow.
Thank you, hopefully.
Thank you. All right, interesting to talk to you, Anish. There is a lot happening here. Are we simply seeing Daniil Dubov winning this game now?
We are again, but he did lose the thread for one move. David Anton did have one move to get back into the game a bit earlier on and actually at least equalise the chances. But he did miss that opportunity, and once again, we do see Daniil Dubov in control. The computer says +10. That is a winning advantage. That's equivalent to having an extra queen, pretty much. And actually, we do see Daniil Dubov. He did win a bishop. He's won the knight, so actually he's the one who's a piece ahead. Black's queen, it looks like it's very dangerous in White's territory there, but actually there's no immediate threats. White's king is relatively safe, protected by its queen. I think this one won't last too much longer. David Anton, he tried to set some tricks. He tried to muddy the waters and complicate things, but unfortunately it wasn't quite enough.
Yeah, we do have a tweet from Stephen Vesio who says, Dubov is always so creative, really fun to watch. So, yeah, I could see that there was so much excitement happening in the board. You know, I just love how he played with the piece down. And, yeah, we can see now that Dubov is completely winning now. You just compare the kings and compare material. White has how many pawns up? I'm not very good at maths.
White has 3 extra pawns right now. White's king is very safe. I think Black can give a check with his queen, but White's king has enough pawn shelter around it. Therefore, David Anton is trying his best to keep the threats up. He's brought his rook across. He's talking to his pieces. That rook was doing nothing, but I think it's too little, too late right now.
Finally, that pawn starts to march towards the queening square. This is what I wanted to do about 20 moves ago.
Christmas wish.
Queens, what you want for Christmas? Many queens.
Many queens.
Yes.
Many queens, many victories. Yes.
All right, well, obviously he can't move his queen yet because that rook is there, but is this a long-term plan or how long-term is it?
Yeah, it's not very long-term, unfortunately, for David Anton. Daniil Dubov there as well, just defending that pawn with his rook. Black's rook is trapped. It's stuck there, stopping the white pawn from advancing. Meanwhile, he's still 3 pawns behind. OK, he's using his king to try and capture that white pawn, but even if he does, that will not be enough. He will still be many pawns behind. Black's king is also weaker than its white counterpart, potentially. And we do see Daniil Dubov moving in for the kill. That white queen is going to drop itself up there on the right side, capture that black pawn, and undefended.
It will be game over, and I think we're going to see David Anton call it a day, I think, just by his body language. It just looks like just to give a few spite checks, and he just cannot. The thing is, he's so much material down that he can't just hold the position tight. He has to do something.
Yeah, I mean, Black is really struggling. He can't trade the queens, he can't trade the rooks, he can't win any of the white pawns. All of those would lead to hopeless endgames. And now we see Dubov so classy, just centralising his queen. The white queen controls so many squares. Black's queen, meanwhile, is very sad on the edge of the board.
Yeah.
Indirectly as well, the white queen is attacking the black king, so Black's king will probably have to move.
Yeah, and if he does that, then another pawn can drop off on the left side. So yeah, just a little bit hopeless. And I really think that Anton will call it a day soon, because 4 pawns down, right?
6 versus 2. It's like in sport, if you have 6 players, the opponent only has 2. You'll overpower them every time. So yeah, David Anton, I think he's just going through the motions. He doesn't want to resign yet. Maybe he just still feels he's getting into his rhythm. He wants to click the mouse a few more times. But yeah, this game is almost over.
Is it just sometimes you're just not ready to face the loss, or sometimes you're just moving the pieces just a little bit longer?
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes it's just like mentally you just have to play a few moves here and there and just kind of okay, fine. And then find the resign button. And sometimes it's actually because it's difficult to find the resign button. I know I haven't resigned because I was like, where is it? Where is it? And then I ended up playing. And then
You're not used to pushing the resign button, Jovanka, that's why. Which is a good thing.
It is a good thing.
Yeah. And we see the advantage on the bar now saying 15. How much is 15 in advantage in chess?
Normally that is, I mean, it's a winning advantage for sure. Normally that's equivalent to having, for example, extra queen and an extra rook. Yeah, that's killer advantage. And here we see that White has started the final chase of that black king. White has given a few checks. The rook now gives a check to the black king. The king is going to sidestep. But
now it's saying 100. I'm guessing that's winning.
Yeah, that means you can't even get 100. The pieces together don't add up to 100, do they?
No. But that means there's a forced checkmate on the board. I think checkmate is inevitable, and we do see David Anton has resigned actually.
David Anton, he did resign, the player that was voted back into the tournament. He was knocked out in the preliminaries in the first tournament, but many fans out there, so he was voted back in. Daniel Dubo getting a win here, and that means that Daniel Dubo is heading to the top of the table. Are we a little bit surprised by this, or is Daniel Dubo actually someone we have to talk about as one of the favorites here?
Well, I'm not sure whether he's one of the favourites, but to be honest, all 12 of these players are just so magnificent. It doesn't surprise me if they're leading the pack on day one. They're absolutely fantastic players. Daniel Dubov has certainly been one to watch for many years now. He's incredibly strong. He plays some brilliant chess. So I'm not surprised that he is on a plus score.
Also, we should mention that he's one of the few players in this past year who's won a tournament in which Magnus Carlsen and Nakamura have played in online. So he does have form. He does have this track record. He's extremely good at rapid chess, former rapid world champion. This is his forte, and he's looking so confident.
Yeah, he is looking very confident. And I mean, being a Russian, we have a lot of Russians in this tournament. Alexander Grisham, Yana Pomnyachi. How is Daniel Dubo doing in this bunch of all the Russians?
Yeah, he's definitely up there. Pomnyachi is the strongest Russian player, and Grisham has been one of the strongest ones for many, many years. And Dubov is certainly an upcomer. You know, he's definitely fighting for top spot.
Yeah, he represents this new generation. They've got completely different style. They've been kind of boosted by the kind of rise of technology and computers. And he's definitely used those tools, those skills to create his own style, as Jovanka mentioned earlier. And he can beat anyone on his day. The others may be a bit more consistent, a bit more steady. But when he's on top form, it's like watching a masterpiece fire on the board.
Well, talking about style, so we know that the Russian style is very much about studying, spending a lot of time studying chess. Whereas Magnus Carlsen maybe been more known for playing chess a lot more. Is Daniel Dubo actually maybe doing more what Magnus Carlsen is doing?
I think he's kind of married those two styles. He's playing a bit of both. He plays a lot. It's no coincidence he's part of Magnus Carlsen's team. I think they've played training matches against each other, but he loves these sacrifices, and he studies those much deeper than maybe anyone before him. Lots of players, they'll study these long, slow, strategic positions. He studies these beautiful attacking lines, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him one day challenge Magnus Carlsen for the crown.
Ah, really? Okay. Well, isn't it a bad idea for him to be the second of Magnus then? Just giving him all his ideas?
Maybe he's also learning some of Magnus's secrets. You never know.
Well, that's one of the great things about Dubov. Actually, he's not afraid to play his novelties. He says, that's fine. I'll create new novelties. Doesn't matter.
All right. Well, the first day of the Airthings Master is closing in on the end, but there is still one game going on. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave and Yana Pomnyachi is still playing. We've seen a lot of draws today. Are you surprised by that, or is that just typical first day? That's what it's like.
Yeah, I'm not too surprised. I think first day, nobody really knows what kind of form they're in. They're all a bit rusty. They've been celebrating Christmas. I think a couple of the draws were due to nerves. A couple of the draws, they're just saying, OK, I've won a game already. I'm just going to hold my position. I'll let the others kind of fight it out for those qualification places. So I think the next day, the next 2 days, we'll see a lot more blood on the board.
Wow. And the final game going on, we're jumping into the end game here. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave and Yana Pomnyachi. The bar is saying completely draw. David, what are you saying?
the bar might say a draw, and a draw is definitely the most likely result because we might see a couple of pawns leave the board. Neither side will have enough material left to checkmate, but there's still life. There's still life. White has this very kind of promising pawn on the left side there, which could just run home. Pomnyachi's last move with the rook, we see it on the board, is highlighted with those yellow squares. That was his last move. He's trying to get that pawn. He's trying to capture it. If black can remove that pawn from the board, the remaining white pawn, then black will be safe. It should end in a draw. So it's all about whether Maxim Vachier-Lagrave, if he can keep that pawn, he might be able to keep some winning chances. White has 2 rooks. Black has a rook and a bishop. A bishop's normally worse than the rook, but black does have this extra pawn as well. So roughly balanced chances, but still some life left.
Yeah, definitely. While those back queen, that left pawn on the left side still exists, there's going to be some chances. But I do worry about black's very advanced pawn. It's 1 square away from queening. It's there in the centre, and there's a lot of risk involved in.
Yeah, that last decision to kind of allow black's pawn in the middle there, to allow that one to survive, that's very, very risky from Vachier-Lagrave. It shows he's playing for the win. So white is playing for the win, but that could backfire. And we saw that on Pomnyachi's face. He did frown, and now black's king is advancing.
And no wonder Maxim is feeling fresh. Look at the air quality that Airthings is providing us with. He's got the perfect air quality.
Right, yeah.
Wow.
The Airthings guys, they said around 500 to 600 is perfect. Humidity looks perfect too.
22 degrees, nice temperature.
I'm jealous.
Yes, absolutely. 34% humidity, beautiful.
So even if he's been sitting in this room for many, many hours now, he's been able to keep the air quality great. And I mean, even if this is looking like a draw, if there was to happen something very dramatic here, at least his air quality would be perfect to do something.
And we saw it affected Anish Giri, potentially. Yeah. I mean, he had a bad day. Maybe it was just coincidence that the air quality wasn't great in his room, but maybe I'll be messaging him later. I'll say, just put on loads of coats and open that window. Being cold is better than having bad air quality.
Yeah, definitely. You've got to have good air quality because it does, maybe it's something like a hidden thing, actually, that mistakes that we make, we think it's heat in the moment, is actually due to bad CO2 levels.
No, for sure.
Interesting. OK, so Maxim is one of the players that have been able to put up Airthings piece to actually monitor his air quality. Unfortunately, Yana Pomnyachi hasn't been able to. It's been hard to get the device to him in Russia. That's what it's like sometimes with the COVID restrictions, hard to send stuff. But very interesting to follow Maxim's air quality.
Yes, and meanwhile, white is trying to push his pawn closer to its end goal of getting to the black starting rank. White needs to try and make a new queen, but black's last move with that bishop, it does control the key square. It does control the promotion square of that white pawn. Black's rook as well, doing a great job keeping an eye on that pawn from the back, from behind. That pawn, it's kind of launching a suicide mission. It wants to be taken. If black's rook now, if it jumps up and captures that pawn, then the black rook loses defense of that pawn in the middle.
But this time it's Pomnyachi who says, no, I want to keep the game going because look at that pawn that he has. The thing is, though, black has 2 pawns. And yes, white has this beautiful pawn on the left side, but, you know, here it comes.
Black's pawns are running.
Here comes the other one. Oh, dear me. This is very tense.
Yeah, and the white rook, normally we say rooks are better than bishops. Rook's worth 5 points, bishop's worth 3 normally. That white rook at the bottom of the board there, it's so bad. It's just keeping an eye on the black pawn. It can't do anything else. It's basically like playing down a piece. That black pawn in the middle is so strong that it's keeping a whole rook busy.
Yeah.
This one, I think black... Whoa.
Oh,
and look at the bar.
Whoa.
I was about to say it's much easier to play black, although it should still be a draw with best play. But now it's time for black to bring his king forward. He does it. He's going to attack that white rook at the bottom. White is going to have to lose that rook for a pawn. I think Maxim Vachier-Lagrave, he got brave 3 or 4 moves ago. He tried to play for a win, but it's going to rebound. Black's moves are so easy and so natural. He should just bring his king to attack that white rook.
And he's done it. He's now, OK, now that rook has to move. And goodness me.
Yeah, and the key factor is, as Jovanka mentioned, black has an extra pawn on the board. So if the white rook loses itself right now, if it has to give itself up for that black pawn, if you imagine all the pieces off the board, if white has a rook left, but black has a rook and a bishop, actually that should be a draw. We saw it in the Skilling Open a few times with the Indian player Vidit. It should be a draw, but black has these 2 pawns, and 2 is better than 1. One of them is going to become a queen, and I think Maxime, just knowing him quite well, we've played each other so many times, his body language means he's kind of resigned himself to defeat here. He knows the end is nigh. He'll be regretting that decision not to take that black pawn off the board a bit earlier on.
Yes.
This is...
Yeah, sometimes it's just, you should just accept what is in front of you and not try to impose your will. You know, because you can see Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, he really wanted to win, he really wanted to push, but he should have just accepted that the position was a draw. And because look at it now, it's all going in one direction for black. Look at that. It's just beautiful. One of those pawns are just going to queen.
That's right, and black, he's not in a rush. In Pomnyachi, that black rook just steps up 1 square. He's keeping an eye on his bishop, the black rook, protecting its bishop. That's another good tip for everyone at home. Just keep everything nicely protected. Don't rush too much. The black rook doing a multi-purpose job right now. It's keeping an eye on the white pawn, and it's also keeping an eye on its bishop. Meanwhile, those 2 black pawns, I feel so sorry for that white rook. One of those pawns is going to promote. White will have to give up his rook to get rid of the new queen, and then the other black pawn will win the game. And I think now is probably a good moment. Black can push one of those pawns forward and make a new queen. We could see, technically, we could see 3 queens on the board right now.
We could see it. OK, we're going to see the first one appear. So now we're expecting rook takes queen, or perhaps Maxime Vachier-Lagrave will just resign.
I think there's a couple of options for Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. He captures the black bishop, so he's trying to distract black's rook. So black's rook no longer keeping an eye on that white pawn. However, it won't be enough. We will emerge. Actually, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, I think, has resigned. Black would emerge with an extra rook after both sides promote. So, for example, the white rook would take the queen, black's king would capture back, but then black would make a new queen. White would make a new queen too, but black would be a rook ahead.
Wow. So that is a win for Yana Pomnyachi in the final game of today, a devastating loss for Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. We are joined by another player who got a win in his last game of today, Daniel Dubois. Congratulations on your win against David Anton.
Thank you very much.
Tell us, what has this day been like? Your very first Champions Chess Tour tournament.
Well, it's been chaotic, you know, because for like first 2 or 3 games, I was just, I mean, first of all, I had to play chess, and secondly, I was just trying to fix some technical things with my laptop for a better connection and a better like camera sync and everything. So I was actually happy with 3. I mean, with 2 boring draws and 1 like not that boring, but still quite a short draw against Maxime. And then, yeah, I mean, finally. You probably expect me to say that I finally managed and then I could play normally, but then I finally just gave up. I realized I cannot fix it at all. I'll probably do it after the games are over, and then I just decided to play one more, I don't know, interesting game. I don't know if I played well, but I mean, in general, it was, it was great fun. I don't know, maybe I was losing, maybe all the stuff I was doing was actually okay, but in general, it felt like a tremendous joy to play such a game after first 3 sort of boring draws and everything. So yeah, that's it.
So Daniel, we actually saw the second half of that game against David Anton. It looked like exciting stuff. One thing that we noticed is that you seem to have this knack of somehow sacrificing material and always getting a great position, especially with white. How do you always find that kind of imagination to do that, and how do you feel always being a piece down in most of your games?
Well, I mean, it feels normal. I don't know. You know, Boris Gelfand is my good friend, so he basically taught me. He likes to repeat that. Basically, if you sacrifice more pieces, then you blunder less. You know. So I mean, if you sacrifice, at least it's not a blunder. So yeah, that's probably my approach. But in general, I don't know. I just try to play some, I don't know, decent opening as white, and then I try not to retreat at any moment. Yeah. So basically, if they attack your pieces, you just have to attack back. You don't move your pieces. I mean, you do something else. So even in this game, I like this d4, d5 move. I think it's very stylish. It's probably just bad, but I mean, in general, this d5, like, have three pieces under attack or something, then his piece is also hanging, and then I just go d5 like nothing is going on. Yeah, I don't know. It was a cool game to play. I actually haven't checked it yet, so maybe it was like -5 or something.
And we are actually now joined by our fellow Russian, Yana Pomnyachi now, Daniil. Great ending to the day for the Russians. Are you liking the time where you are sitting now? It's, 8, 9, 10 o'clock for you guys?
It's 5 to 9.
Hi, Jan. Thank you for joining us as well, and congratulations on a win in your last game.
Thank you. It was unexpected, but yeah.
Is it actually like that, Daniil, with so many Russians being in top of chess? Are you actually following each other and maybe cheering a little bit for each other? Or are you all just competitors?
You know, there are too many of us for being either competitors or cheering. You know, I mean, it's just thousands of people playing chess well in Russia. So you know, just we have to live with it. Yeah, so that's it.
At least, I mean, the only thing I can add, I could let's say, I gave my point, wholeheartedly to Sasha. So I'm clearly cheering for Russians here.
Actually, in the Russian Championship recently, Daniil's win in the last round actually helped you, Jan, to win the title. So does that kind of breed this great,
Russian dominance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, but 2 rounds before this last round, Daniil also made everything for me not to win the title. Yeah, so it's like very, 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 very double-edged. Yeah, so you never know if someone is your friend or foe. Yeah. Actually, if you think he's a foe, but turns out he's a friend. Yeah.
And actually, well, you two will be playing each other at one point. Daniil, what is it going to be like to play against Jan? I'm not sure if it's tomorrow or in 2 days.
I think it's in 2 days.
Yes, I think you're right. I think in the end of the preliminaries, you guys will be facing each other.
Yes,
I don't know. I think it's going to be like one of like a dozen of games. Yeah, I mean, we've played a lot and we will probably play a lot. So yeah, I don't know. It's always unpleasant to play Jan, as Grisham pointed out once. So you can beat him, but you can never enjoy the game. So I think it's fair.
Fantastic.
And what do you find most enjoyable about playing online chess?
Well, there is basically nothing to enjoy. Yeah, you're nervous all the time, so you play like 4 games in 4 hours. 4 very tough games. You are getting crushed every time. Yeah, and only if you like to use time sports, then you enjoy it. This is like the not very like normally it's the opposite.
All right, Jan, it's been a bit of a roller coaster for you today. 2 draws, you ended it with a win, but you also had 1 loss. What has this first day of the Airthings Masters been like for you?
Well, to begin with, in my first game against Anish, I just occasionally made the second move of the line. I wanted to play knight a5 and then bishop g4. And then, I saw the bishop g4 at the board, so I just wanted to resign at first. And then I thought, okay, maybe I can play e5, and maybe it's not over yet. Yes, I was very lucky. In the second game, Sasha played just great, I believe. In the third game, I was just really tilted. And in the fourth game, I just blundered. I was ready to resign, but somehow I don't know, I won in the end. So, it's definitely not the time to, whine too much.
Sounds good. And Daniil, tomorrow, first game of the day for you will be against world champion Magnus Carlsen, a player that we know you know very well. You are in his coaching in his second team. What will that game be like for you?
We'll see, but in general, it's always a great fun. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I actually like this Magnus Tor thing, because, I mean, it doesn't even matter. Like, normally, you need to play very well to play him, and then, I mean, even when you play well, I mean, sometimes you manage to somehow avoid this game. And here it's exactly the opposite. You can play like an idiot, but then you still get this gift of playing Magnus. So, I mean, I just like to play him very much. It's always a very tense game. I mean, I just like it. I mean, it's always exciting to play him.
And Jan, obviously, you also played Magnus so many times. I think you're one of the few players with a plus score against the world champion. What's your final tip for Daniil before he faces the world champion tomorrow?
Well, I think Daniel is probably the last person who needs my tips.
All right. Well, both of you, thank you so much for joining us, and good luck on the second day of the Airthings Masters tomorrow.
Thanks. Thank you.
All right, some Russian power there. Definitely some of the best chess players in the world come from Russia.
Yeah, definitely. They have such a great atmosphere. They work together, they study together, and you see if they're competitive with each other at the same time. It's absolutely brilliant.
We actually see that in the Queen's Gambit, the Netflix series that we mentioned a lot, that the Americans talk about the Russians being... They're such a good team. They're always helping each other. Is that actually what it's like in the real world as well?
I think it's just the culture over there. I mean, chess is this kind of almost a national sport in a way. I mean, Daniel alluded to it. There's thousands of great players in the country. I mean, I've heard that even taxi drivers are pretty good at chess. Yeah, I just think it's just in their mentality. And also, I mean, they're lucky. They have so many talented players and they all work extremely hard. They have this drive to win. Yeah, I'm loving watching their games.
Yeah. The Russians ending the first day of their Airthings Masters on a high note. Both of these players that we talked to got a win in the last game, and this is what the fourth round ended up like. We did see Yana Pomnyachi, as we mentioned, win against Maxim Vagier-Lagrave. We had a draw between Levon Aronian, Ikaru Nakamura, also a draw between Wesley So and Alexander Grisham, another Russian. Timor Rojabov and Anish Giri also played the draw, and so did Pentla Hari Krishna and Magnus Carlsen, who's only played draws today. But then Daniil Dubo, as we mentioned, he won against David Anton. And I think maybe we do have the standings list as well. Let's take a look at that. It is so tight after one day. We actually have 5 players on 2.5 points, and there is only 11 rounds in the preliminary, so...
Yes, everything to play for. It is so tight at the top 5 leaders. And then, of course, you have players on at 2 points, chasing behind them. So absolutely everything to play for over the next 2 days. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, and even for Anish Giri, with it being this tight, David, it's not over for him even.
That's right. I mean, he's only 1 point away from the qualification places. So just stringing together 1, maybe 2 wins, that'll be enough to elevate him up to qualify for that top 8. And I think nobody's safe here. Magnus Carlsen in 7th place. I mean, if he just has 1 bad game, and that could happen. I mean, imagine if Daniil Dubov beats him. Suddenly Magnus Carlsen will be talking about his survival chances. Anything can happen, and that's the beauty of this format.
All right, we do have a great day of chess coming up tomorrow. Day 2 of the Airthings Masters. Some players really need to start winning the games, Jovanka.
Yeah, definitely. Some players have had an unfortunate start, but it is day 1. We are still 2 days left in the preliminary stage, and you have to remember 8 of the 12 players will go on through to the knockout stage, so the chances are good. Just have to keep the nerves.
Yes. All right. Well, not only the players who've been competing today, we did have a Twitter quiz as well asking who is the current or reigning Fischer Random World Champion? And the answer, Jovanka, is...
The answer was, of course, and many people guessed it, Grandmaster Wesley So, who convincingly defeated Magnus Carlsen. It was just epic what he did. And the winner of our quiz is John Yoen, who has won 1 year's premium membership on Chess24. A brilliant prize.
Brilliant prize, and brilliant that he knew that. Great, so we'll have a new quiz tomorrow for all the viewers out there. Perfect. Okay, that was day 1 of the first major in the Champions Chess Tour, Airthings Masters. It's been a good day, hasn't it? Good to get started.
It's been a lot of fun. A bit of a roller coaster as well. Some draws, some really dramatic wins. We got to see Levon Aronian's dog. That was my highlight. Lots more to come as well, hopefully.
And Boxing Day, so you're going straight to your hotel and watching football, I guess.
Oh, yeah, and football. Studying some chess.
Studying some chess, perfect. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us here for the first day of the Airthings Masters. Luckily, 8 days remain. We have so much chess to look forward to. We hope to see you again tomorrow, and goodbye.